Hey folks, today we gather to celebrate 5 years of RR Slugger. Where does the time go? Just like I've done in years past, today I want to sit down and talk about all the videos I made this year, give you kind of a behind-the-scenes director commentary for each one. I get a little self-conscious with these videos. It feels a lot like it's me talking about me quite a bit, but folks seem to enjoy them each year, so here we go. I've got 2 goals this time around. Firstly, I actually want to make this one shorter than last year's. I failed that twice now, so, this is my year. I think I can do it. My second goal, though, is I need to stop using the phrase, at the end of the day. I was listening back to my commentary from last year, and oh my goodness, it's like every 2 sentences I'm saying, at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, well, at the end of the day, yeah, so we're just gonna cut that out. I'm sure I'm just going to come up with a different phrase to, fill the void, but, at the end of the day, it's the thought that counts. All right, that's probably enough of a preamble. Let's get into it. The future is bleak for LEGO Space. What an uplifting start. Yeah, talking about this video is going to be kind of strange because this is really part 3 of a trilogy of videos, and I talked about the first 2 parts in the previous wrap-up video. So talking about this one in isolation is probably going to feel a little incomplete. Moreover, the topic is almost outdated at this point in time. The sets that I'm talking about in the video are the LEGO City Space sets from 2024, 2025, and those are all long dead. They're long gone at this point in time. So, I don't know, it seems like talking about them now is just like, bringing up a forgotten memory. Still, I'll try my best here. The structure of this video is a little odd. I think it has a really slow start, and that's mostly due to me trying to reinforce and regurgitate some of the arguments I made in the previous 2 videos, just for folks that maybe had missed those or had misunderstood those, right? So it takes a little while to get going into the actual topic it's trying to discuss. Nonetheless, I think there's still some good stuff at the start of this video. One of the things I actually do is I go through and I talk about what my childhood experience with LEGO Space was, and I think that's really interesting. It probably surprised a lot of people, I would imagine. I hope it did, because I was bringing that up just as a point against the whole idea that Slugger, you only talk about this stuff because you're nostalgic for it, yada, yada, yada. The reality is most of the stuff I talk about on my YouTube channel is stuff I acquired as an adult, and it's stuff that I only experienced as an adult. Like, my childhood with LEGO was much more Exo Force and LEGO Island Extreme Stunts, like those sorts of sets. And you really rarely ever hear me talk about them now because while I'm nostalgic for some of that sort of stuff, it just doesn't interest me as an adult. I really like the stuff that came out in the 90s a little bit more, even though it wasn't necessarily my upbringing with LEGO. I guess this whole section of that video was just a roundabout way of saying you can like something that's old and not be nostalgic for it. That's fine, right? It's just a preference for something. I don't know why that's such a difficult concept for so many people to grasp, but c'est la vie. The next point that I kind of bring up in the video is the idea of conflict in a box, and why I don't really like this, right? It's the practice of, well, I don't need to explain it to you now. You already saw the video. I presume if you're watching this one, you've already seen that. So anyways, I kind of found this discussion to be useful. I'd always wanted to put this in a video somewhere. And even though on the surface, it looks like it's kind of unrelated to the topic this video is about, it becomes related later on when I try to pitch the whole LEGO First Contact original theme idea, because I recognize that whatever idea I come up with in terms of like an original theme that they could pitch these days, that they could try to make work, it'll probably have conflict in the box in it, right? That's just, it seems to be the way that they make themes these days. So yeah, I'm just trying to be realistic because it's not like they're ever gonna make the sets like they did in the 90s again. They're just not, right? So I'm not holding out hope that they will. I firmly believe they will not do that. So I think the video is kind of an exercise of wishful thinking on my part, but hopefully within the realm of reasonability, I think. So anyways, then we get to the Christian Faber interview from TrikBrix channel, and it's interesting to hear him say that sort of stuff about how Lego Star Wars basically made it impossible for the Lego group to pursue Lego Space any further. It kind of adds up with what we have, fact-wise. It really does seem like there was kind of an impact on the way that space themes were made after Star Wars. There's pre-Star Wars Lego Space and there's post-Star Wars Lego Space, and they're two different beasts. Still, it lacks citation, it lacks any sort of official recognition, right? This is just Christian Faber saying things, and Christian Faber says a lot of things, to be honest. So, take it with a grain of salt. It's not confirmed by any means. But at the same time, that realization is where the title of the video comes from. If it is a choice between Lego Star Wars and Lego Space original themes, well, like I say in the video, I know which one's the safe bet. As a cultural icon, Star Wars isn't going anywhere. It just isn't. I know it's kind of the hip new thing for Gen Z to say that, the new films or the new shows are terrible and therefore the whole brand is going to implode upon itself, right? But for us millennials, and Gen Xers, right? We've already gone through this. Star Wars survived the prequels. I can't understate how significant that is. There is listen, there is a ton of revisionism surrounding that now. Apparently, all of a sudden, the prequels weren't universally panned movies. That's what people were telling me in the comment section. It's just bizarre to hear that. And it's probably coming from folks that were just too young to have known any different at the time, right? But those movies were hated. The Plinkett reviews of the Star Wars movies, right? Who hasn't seen the Plinkett reviews? That was the cultural zeitgeist of the time. Those reviews were what everyone was thinking. That those weren't hot takes, is what I'm trying to say. When folks saw those reviews, they were let's laugh at this, low-hanging fruit. Let's beat this dead horse, right? The prequels were just, the whipping boy of cinema. People bullied George Lucas out of a career, essentially. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a good thing, obviously not, but the vitriol was just, humongous, overwhelming. So to try to retcon that and change history, just kind of rewrite it and say no, the prequels are actually, underrated gems, or a lot of people, liked them at the time or something like that. No, it's just bizarre. No, the sequel movies have had a far better reception than the prequels ever did. I think the proof's in the pudding there, right? Rian Johnson directed The Last Jedi. That was a film that had a lot of split opinions. He's still making movies. George Lucas directed the prequels and then complained that everyone was yelling at him every time he made a Star Wars movie, so he quit, right? You can't have both things be true. You can't have fans bullying George Lucas out of making films and the prequels weren't universally hated, right? Those both can't be true. So it's frankly surreal to me that I have to sit here and try to defend reality, right? It's the Star Wars prequels. This is the lowest of low-hanging fruit. Or at least it was. Like I say in the video, that I heard people back in the day say, if Attack of the Clones doesn't stick the landing, Star Wars is dead. And one of the comments I saw actually was saying that, well, that kind of happened, Yeah, Star Wars never really recovered as a property. Those first three movies are just phenomenal, right? Even Empire Strikes Back. I'm not that's my least favorite of the original three, but I still like that one quite a bit. But from the prequels onwards, it's kind of it's been rough waters. It's a rough time to be a Star Wars fan, I think. Yet, on the flip side, it's never been a better time to be a Star Wars fan because there's just so much Star Wars media, so many Star Wars products that you can indulge in. Like, and that's kind of the point I'm getting at in that The Future is Bleak for LEGO Space video. Like, if Star Wars can survive that and like come out stronger out the other side, then there's just no stopping it. Like, it survived the prequels. It survived the prequels. We have to, like, you have to understand that it's just that's so crazy, you know, like think of The Matrix, for example, right? Like, the Matrix, you know, phenomenal, groundbreaking film. And then it had like 2 of the worst sequels back to back, right? And that basically killed it dead in the water. There's recently been like a 4th movie that just kind of came out of nowhere. I haven't seen that one. I don't think I care enough to go watch it, but you get what I'm saying? Like The Matrix had that sort of potential to just be like all encompassing, become a huge media property, but like bad sequels kill franchises. You know, that's what happens to most franchises, at least. Somehow Star Wars is still kicking 20 years on, 25 years on. Like it's just crazy. So, no, I don't accept the premise that Star Wars is on its last legs here, or it's gonna implode upon itself and collapse, and no one's gonna care about Star Wars anymore. It's bigger than ever. It's just, them's the facts. So, what does that mean for LEGO Space? Nothing good. Like I predicted last year, that galactic spaceship set, the modular spaceship, was the last hurrah for LEGO Space for the foreseeable future. I don't expect anything big on the horizon. I did have someone tell me that there's a LEGO Project Hail Mary set, so therefore LEGO Space is still alive, and I'm just like, no, man, that's not. Yeah, it's just a different licensed series, and not even really, I guess, a series. It's just one single set from a film. Yeah, no thanks. That's not what I'm looking for here. Anyways, I don't really have much more to say on this topic. I think LEGO Space is something, I guess, best just remembered in the past, because I don't think they're going to be able to do what I want them to do with it in the present or the future. And that sucks. I wish it wasn't that way, but here we are. Wow, real uplifting start to this video, hey? All right, here we go. This is the start of Plastic Planes. And this is the video for the Spy Runner, an all-new series. And this one was a long time coming, believe it or not. I know I didn't hint at this, at least I have no recollection of hinting at a Plastic Planes series at any point in my 5 years on YouTube. But this was something I was working on in the background. I'd composed the music for it a couple of years prior. Brett, the channel artist, had created the artwork for it a couple years prior. And then finally in 2025, I was able to take flight with Plastic Planes. And the Spy Runner was the first set on my mind that I wanted to talk about. I think this is a really solid inaugural episode. You can definitely tell at this point in time, I had the experience with the previous series, Rock Raiders, Time Cruisers, those sorts of things, that had like informed my decision making on what I would include, what kind of structure I would take for the video, those sorts of things. So yeah, I think this is a pretty smooth ride the whole way through. One thing that I love about Plastic Planes is that there's no real expectations in terms of what sets I should talk about in a certain order or, a certain release year, like those sorts of things. With like Orient Expedition, I'm going in order of the adventure. With Rock Raiders, I went through the retail sets first, then did the promotional sets afterwards, right? Like there's series like the How to Build Rock Raiders series where like we know what the next video is going to be, right? Like those sorts of things. And there's an expectation to kind of finish the series at some point in time. But with Plastic Planes, you know, the sky's the limit. It's really refreshing to have a series like this where I can just say, do I feel like making a Plastic Planes episode right now? And then I can look over at my shelf with a bunch of Lego planes on it, or a lot of them still sealed in boxes. And I can say, yeah, you know what, I do. Or no, I don't really feel like it. And I think that relaxation, that kind of relaxed atmosphere, comes through in the videos. I also made a lot of smart decisions to make my life easier with this series. One of the big ones is that I made a big soundtrack song. Just for every video, it's just going to have the same song playing in the background. And I can trim it to make it longer or trim it short if I need it shorter. That's just a huge, it makes editing audio so much easier. Yeah, when I don't have to choose where the split in the tracks is going to be, I can just have one song playing. It's great. I also made the smart decision to only feature one alternate build per set if the set contains alternate builds. I'm going to level with you. I'm going to be totally honest. Talking about alternate builds in my videos is the worst part about making videos. It's such a headache. I love alternate builds. I love building them, and to some extent, I really love talking about them. But you have to understand, like, the order of events, like the reality of the the making of these videos. In order to talk about an alternate build in a video that I make, I have to build the alternate build and photograph the alternate build while I'm still writing the script for the video. And that's just a really obtuse way to do it. But I have to, right? Otherwise, I have to like write about the alternate build before I've even built it. I kind of have to like lie, right? Yeah. And that's super annoying. And it slows everything down to a crawl. Because with a lot of my scripts, and I run into this all the time with the Orient Expedition, I run into this problem where I've finished the majority of what I can write for the script, but I can't talk about the alternate builds. I can't finish the script for the video because I haven't built them and I haven't gotten around to photographing them, right? Like so you hit this bottleneck, this kind of roadblock. And like, as I sit here talking about this, that's exactly what's going on with the Dragon Fortress video. I've finished every other part of the script, but I still need to construct both alternate builds and write about both of them. And it's just such a hassle to do that. So limiting it to just a single alternate build for these tiny little plastic plane sets, it's manageable. I feel like I can't cut out alternate builds entirely because they're really cool and people love hearing about them and seeing them photographed. I totally get it. They're such a headache. Like, man, they're such a headache. Still, even if logistically they're really annoying to deal with, alternate builds are my jam. I love building them, and it's so cool to see the creativity on the back of these Plastic Planes boxes. They're turning planes into cars, planes into boats. It seems like boats is a pretty common one. Planes into other planes, right? There's really cool stuff hanging out back here. So the Spy Runner is specifically, I think, is a really, really great entry point into the Plastic Plane series, which is why I chose it. And in fact, one of the things that held me back from making this video earlier is that I didn't own the box to it. So a fan of the channel, Elena, donated one. She had two, apparently, and so she sent me one. And then I was able to photograph it and kind of get the ball rolling with Plastic Planes. I was really waiting to do that because I had the Spy Runner, and honestly, it escapes me where I got it. I must have bought it off of Bricklink or something years ago. And I just kind of held off on doing anything with the set because I didn't have the box, and I wanted to showcase the box. I wanted to showcase the alternate builds, and that's going to be a kind of a recurring goal for Plastic Planes, if wherever possible. But it is tougher these days to get your hands on these sorts of things. The Lego investor market is, it's messing things up for content creators like myself. Lego is just a lot more expensive now than it was 5 years ago when I started out. And a lot of these little niche products, these little plastic planes, they're getting tough to find because people will just buy them up. And it's pretty rare now to see an airline promotional set for less than $100 sealed. And I bought some of these for, $40, $50, just a few years ago. And so it's getting tougher to, expand the collection to be able to make videos on them. So there is going to be an end point for plastic planes. I'll just get priced out of plastic planes, which is kind of too bad. I might have to concede and finally decide, well, okay, I guess I won't be able to get all of these sets boxed anymore. It's too expensive. So maybe I'll just part some of them together. A lot of them are pretty easy to piece together using your collection. I might end up looking at that, but we'll see what happens. I think the Spy Runner was just like a really cool set to start with. It had an alternate build that we could construct. It had some weird abnormalities about it. The fuel pods on the wingtips, the logo on the vertical stabilizer, that's kind of weird and unique to the set. So those were cool aspects for it. I had some folks point out that they were surprised I didn't bring up Spyrius in the video, because the Spy Runner has the Spyrius color scheme, and I don't know, like I think this is one of those areas where I feel like Lego fans often see what they want to see, and sometimes I'm guilty of that too, right? But a lot of times we're always trying to make connections between things, and to me it's just an aircraft. It's got black, white, and red as the color scheme. And yes, some of those colors can be found in Spyrius. And I get it, Spy is in the name, right? Spy Runner, Spyrius. So maybe there's some like superficial connection there. But I strongly doubt this was any sort of like intentional callback. Right, like this is a Lego set from a time when Lego just didn't have a vast array of colors to kind of choose from, at least not to the extent that they would do so like in production, because I know they had a bunch of Belleville things, a bunch of Fabuland colors technically on the books, right? But they weren't actively using a lot of those colors in sets. They were still kind of sticking to the primary colors more or less. So while I don't think the Spy Runner is actually a reference to Spyrius as a theme, I guess I get where people are coming from with that. Anyways, I have no experience with aviation. Like, I'm not a pilot. I don't particularly like flying, but I do find these little plastic planes kind of interesting. So, I'm learning more about aviation just through making these videos, and hopefully you are as well, just from watching them. Oh, my dear Slug. We're over 20 minutes, and I've only talked about 2 videos. This last one, the commentary was longer than the video itself. Oh, goodness. All right, I'm gonna have to change up the pace here a little bit, I think, if we're gonna beat our time from last year. So let's dive into the next one. All right, back to plastic planes. Nice. This is the video for the Shuttle TransCon 2. I was motivated to make this video because there was a recent, at the time, Lego model of this shuttle carrier aircraft thing that had just come out, somewhat recently, as recently as our Slugger can get his butt in gear and start making videos about it. But I kind of thought that would be a neat way to show, like, hey, this is the original one that Lego made way back in the day. And I'd had this set for a long time. I got it from someone in my city. He was selling his Lego collection, just a local guy, his childhood collection or whatever, and I ended up getting this set from him. He kept it in really great shape, it was photograph ready. Before I talk about the video, though, the thumbnail. The thumbnail's kind of weird for this one, right? It says Double Trouble, and it's got Team Rocket up on top. You know, here comes trouble, make it double. I think that's something they say. I honestly know nothing about Pokemon. You know, when everyone was playing with Pokemon and watching the show, I was watching Star Trek, so I don't know. I might have seen an episode or two somewhere in there, but I do know, or I think that's a quote from those characters. Nobody corrected me, so hopefully I got that right. The other thing nobody commented on, though, was the bass player hanging out there in the thumbnail. That is Benjamin Orr from the Cars. And the reason why he's there is because the Cars have a song on their Door to Door album called Double Trouble, and Ben Orr is the singer of that song. So this is the whole thumbnail was actually a musical reference. Like there's a bunch of musical references in Slugger's videos. But this one flew under the radar for a lot of folks, I think. So there you go. The more you know. I'm a big Cars fan. I think Door to Door is one of their best albums. I know it's kind of shunned by the Cars community at large, but I think there's a lot of great songs on it, and Double Trouble's one of them for sure. As for the video itself, I think this is a solid outing for Plastic Planes. I make some pretty good commentary about the scaling of Lego sets and how it relates to the size of Lego studs, and I think that's pretty interesting. So that's included in this video. I showcase the set, of course. I kind of compare and contrast it with the new one on a very surface level, I'd say. We take a look at the alternate builds, or one of the alternate builds there. There's some pretty good stop motion animation included within. Yeah, like, and I talk about the wedge plates. Yeah, I remember that. About how the cutouts on the sides of them kind of impact the overall look of these, you know, the aerodynamic look of the plastic planes themselves, and how that kind of changed, kind of around like 2004, I think, is when they start. Maybe 2005 they start introducing the new wedge plates with the slits cut into them there. That is certainly going to be a topic of discussion in future Plastic Planes videos, because it's just kind of always going to be relevant. So I'm really glad I was able to kind of break the ice on that discussion here. Beyond that, I don't really have too much to say about the rest of this video. I guess the alternate build, like the speedboat that I constructed, the instructions in that Lego magazine, those were wrong. Those were just dead wrong. I reached a point where I was like, well, I either build it the way it shows me in the instructions, or I build it the way that it's photographed. And actually, looking back, I can't really remember which one I chose, but there was a decision point that had to be made at some point there. And that thing is pretty finicky. I don't necessarily do its kind of ramshackleness justice in the video. I kind of say, oh, it's just a few modifications away from being retail set worthy. And I don't know, that's maybe a little bit of a white lie there. It needs a pretty significant overhaul in the midsection to make it sturdy enough to, you know, be retail set worthy. But it is a cool design, and that vertical stabilizer, like the stickers on it, like make it look so good. There's just some really cool rounded shapes on the fuselage of that speedboat, and I like it a lot. This video is pretty by the numbers in a lot of ways. Nothing more to say. Well, we go from kind of a weird thumbnail to one of my favorite thumbnails ever, I think, that I've ever constructed. This is Sky Pirates, another outing for Plastic Planes. I might have been setting the expectation that Plastic Planes was going to be like something I was going to just do all of the time, maybe erroneously, but no, it was just, I was in a Plastic Planes mood, and I was happy to have a new series, and this was another set just like the Spy Runner that I always knew I wanted to talk about. The Shuttle TransCon 2 was kind of something that was like topical at the time, and you know, I really enjoyed writing about it and talking about it and making that video. That one was probably not necessarily going to be a Plastic Planes video. for forever, right? It just kind of worked out that way, and it made sense. You know, it works for plastic planes, obviously. But yeah, this one, Sky Pirates, oh boy, yeah, this was definitely a set that helped inspire the Plastic Planes series. When I got my hands on this thing, I was like, wow. 9/11. Yeah, so I'm old enough to remember 9/11, and I know a lot of my viewers probably aren't. But yeah, a set called Sky Pirates, released in the year 2001. It's just, man, that's so weird. That's, yeah, just kind of crazy. From a production standpoint, I kind of had to make a decision there, right? Like, I really wanted to draw that parallel between the two, right? But I also didn't want to like overstep, you know, and make fun of a tragedy. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I walked the line pretty safely. I didn't get anyone saying, you know, that I was a horrible monster for, you know, trying to imply Sky Pirates and whatnot might have, you know, related to the event. And building the New York skyline out of Lego in miniature scale and kind of backlighting it and whatnot. Yeah, people got it, you know, like folks understood what it was that I was trying to depict there. So I guess I was successful at that. But yeah, hopefully I didn't rub anyone the wrong way. You know, it's yeah. I deemed it worth talking about, I suppose, and I don't necessarily regret doing that. So hopefully you're not upset with me, and if you are, just, you know, let me know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I offended with that. So about the set itself, I love the build for Sky Pirates. I absolutely love the main model. And I kind of hate the side builds. I think the side builds are just kind of garbage, just kind of crap that's just kind of thrown in there. So yeah, it really is the main build that sells this set for me. I love the color scheme. I love the minifigure selection as well too. The weird Rock Raiders kind of callbacks, echoes to Rock Raiders. Like, it's super strange to see it, you know, here with this set. But yeah, the twin boom aircraft design, it's so cool. It looks so good. And the cockpit having like so much storage, like the fuselage is tiny for this thing, and it's got 2 different storage compartments built into it. Like, really impressive stuff with that. So yeah, I would be interested in like a bigger version maybe of the Sky Pirates plane. They don't really have a name for it. We should give it a name or something. Yeah, but yeah, like fleshing it out a little bit more. So it's just a little larger, maybe a slightly bigger scale, something closer to the size of like the Island Hopper from Dino Island. I think could be pretty neat. Yeah, because it is pretty small for like a twin boom aircraft. They weren't typically like that small. Now, they probably weren't the size of like a giant flying boat or something like that. Somewhere in the middle. So like something slightly bigger would be nice to see. Yeah, so Sky Pirates. I think it's a really cool set. I think it's a cool video. I wish the side builds were scrapped and instead that part budget was put towards the main model to make it just a little bit bigger, a little bit more fleshed out. That's my only you know, critique in hindsight about this this video, or that set, I should say. Yeah, I think it's solid plastic planes. And this would be the last one for quite a while because the summer of Slug was on the horizon. This is the first video kicking off the summer, and man, what a summer it was. Fantastic. Yeah, one of the best summer of Slugs yet, at least for this Slug, currently speaking. Summer of Slug 2024, while having, you know, a number of really great videos in it, from a creator perspective, was a terrifying time. Early on, the support for the summer, like the financial support, just wasn't there. And I was very worried for a long time that I had just made a huge mistake, thinking that I could recapture the magic of the first summer of Slug and do it again. So yeah, I kind of had to claw at that one, kind of fighting tooth and nail in order to stay afloat. And you can really tell the difference about how I started that summer of Slug with the Let's Party Like It's 1999 video, kind of celebrating Rock Raiders, and also there's the Summer of Slug kind of going on thing, as opposed to this video where I'm like, here's what's going to happen this summer, here's what needs to happen in order to make it happen, right? Like I need the support, otherwise I just gotta, throw in the towel, and it's just, I can't do this. And the support for this summer, the 2025 summer, was overwhelming, by far the biggest summer of Slug that we've ever done. And I hope part of that was because of the way I kind of laid out, the goals and the requirements, I guess, in terms of like, this is what has to happen in order for this to be feasible. Bringing back the Only Slugs tier and the Go Slug Me tiers, like those two, was a winning formula that seemed to really work. And I actually had more people numerically subscribe to the Only Slugs tier, the more expensive of the two options, than the Go Slug Me tier, which, shocked the heck out of me. Immense generosity. I'm still feeling, the gratitude that I have towards these people who rushed to my support. Thank you. We'll get into the individual videos that I made during the summer momentarily, but by and large, I think it went over really well. I got a lot of great feedback from the Only Slugs subscribers at the end of the summer. I asked them for honest feedback. And, taking all that into consideration, I think the next summer, this upcoming one, is going to be even better. Fingers crossed. So the first video of the Summer of Slug proper was a studio tour of my recording setup, basically my home studio, but in Lego form. Instead of taking you through my actual house, I decided to recreate the certain areas of my home in Lego to kind of show off, this is how I create the videos, the way that I do them. Now, this video itself took a bit of time to get going, I suppose. One of the big delays was due to the new structure of the Summer of Slug that I was trying out this year. That being allowing Only Slugs fans to vote on what projects they would like to see me tackle. And this voting process took so long. I completely underestimated how long it would take to get a hold of everybody and tally all the votes. So yeah, that took 3 or 4 days of just, wrangling everything together. And then on top of that, I had to then start writing scripts, and I didn't have any scripts prepared ahead of time because I wanted people to, be able to vote on these projects. So I wanted that flexibility, but at the same time, then the Summer of Slug was like really slow to start this time around. And so I'm making changes for this upcoming summer that'll address that, hopefully, so that we don't run into the same sort of problem with that. Building models at this scale was definitely a new challenge for me. It's not a scale that I frequently work with. I usually build at minifigure scale, so these sort of, miniaturized versions of life-sized things and finding Lego solutions for the shapes that I needed was a lot of fun. It was very interesting for me to do. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the video, part of that building process I don't think comes through in the final product. The final video, I should say. But I had a lot of fun making this video, and I couldn't really capture that as I went without having to show you what the physical things I was trying to create would have been, right? Like, if that makes sense, like, the challenge of building the lamp on my desk out of Lego is, challenging but you have to know what my lamp looks like, if that makes sense, right? So I'd have to actually like take pictures of the things that I didn't want to take pictures of. And so that would completely defeat the purpose of the video. So I didn't go that route, and hopefully it's still an interesting watch, you know. I think it's kind of neat. But I mean, I know what these things look like in real life, so I guess I find it more interesting because of that. And I guess other folks don't have that same perception. One small correction, actually, that I need to make a correction for this video, which is kind of crazy. But I called the type of bulbs that I use in my lamp, I called them daylight bulbs. And I could have sworn that was what they were called. They have like this really nice warm light to them. And it just makes me think of daylight. But no, apparently daylight bulbs are actually much cooler in color. And I had just completely misremembered. What honestly happened there, though, is that back when I got these lamps, and when I got the lamps for my photography as well too, I bought a bunch of different types of bulbs, and I tried out various colors and hues in each of them, and I think I just mixed up, like, my memory just kind of, I remembered some of them were called daylight bulbs, and I guess I misremembered which ones I ended up going with. So, whoops, my bad. I don't know what the bulbs are that I use then. I don't have the box anymore for them, but yeah, they're much warmer in color, and I really like that. They remind me of incandescent light bulbs, so they kind of look like that. Anyways, this was still a very fun video to make. I don't really have much more to say about it, so let's move on. Dino Attack versus Dino 2010. This was a video idea I had wanted to do for a while, ever since I'd picked up a boxed copy of the Dino Trapper, that 4x4 Dino Trapper, whatever the set's called, from Dino 2010. I grew up with Dino Attack. In fact, for a while there, it was one of my favorite LEGO themes as a young slug. I really loved it. I would make all sorts of different modifications to these sets, and I would design my own custom Dino Attack characters with the uniforms and whatnot, and I would make my own dinosaur monsters to fight using the LEGO Dinosaurs theme from, I think, 2001, something like that. Those buildable dino figures, I would use those as the enemies, because the Dino Attack dinosaurs, I don't really jive with those. I think they look pretty dumb, I suppose, maybe pretty bad. Yeah, they just kind of feel like a different toy line almost. They don't really feel very much like Lego. Those big T-Rexes, they're just like so hollow, and I don't know, almost like a Fisher-Price toy, I guess. They use Galador joints, but they don't have the same mark of quality of Galador, I find. But the old school buildable dinosaurs from the Dinosaurs theme, now those are awesome, right? So I would make monsters out of those things, and they would attack the T1 Typhoon. And I got pretty good at rebuilding parts of that set, because I would always rip it apart. Like, they would always attack like the tail rotor and destroy that, and crash the helicopter and attack the main body of the helicopter, I suppose. And that was a ton of fun. Probably one of my most thoroughly enjoyed sets, I would say, would be the T1 Typhoon. So yeah, I was really big on Dino Attack, which I imagine if you've watched this channel for a long time, you might be surprised to hear that. But yeah, I really enjoyed the theme. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I learned that there was this whole other sister theme for it, Dino 2010. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of explore the differences in this video. Because it's a series that has region exclusivity surrounding it, for someone like myself over here in Canada, it's actually tough to get your hands on that Dino 2010 stuff unless you order it from overseas. And that's what I had to do in this case here. Even though in the video I get some of the region exclusivity stuff incorrect, I show a map, which is always like, no, don't do that, because it's just going to be wrong. This sort of like availability of Lego products, there's kind of like no good way to go about doing this and like stating things as fact, because every time I've used Brixset, and relied on that database, it's been wrong. People have just told me in the comments, no, that's wrong. Like, no, I had it here, or like, this set was available in this form when I was a kid. I get comments all the time about that sort of stuff. So I've learned not to trust Brixset for that information. So I just kind of went off of what I'd heard, which was North America, had the Dino Attack series, and then Europe had the Dino 2010 series. But I kind of filled in some gaps probably where I shouldn't have, like Oceania and that sort of stuff. There was definitely some corrections that folks made in the comment section as to specific places where, no, in this region I had Dino Attack, or no, in this region I had Dino 2010. So just be aware that what you're seeing in my video is also incorrect. As for the topic of the video, while I really have strong biases towards Dino Attack, I was really impressed with Dino 2010, at least comparing these two sets, the Firehammer and the Dino Trapper. I really, really like the winch system in the Dino Trapper. I think it's just awesome. The tailgate's a bit of an issue. Those skis that kind of stick up, that's not very good. That's not great. And obviously Dino Attack has the advantage in that the stickers and general, set design philosophy was built for that theme. But, Dino 2010, I think, still has some stuff to offer here. I think it's still a worthwhile experience. The dinos themselves look even more out of place in Dino 2010, though, that's for sure. So, yeah, you can definitely tell that Dino Attack is what they were trying to make, and then Dino 2010 was the knee-jerk kind of quick reconstruction. What can we do? Everyone panic, sort of thing. It's just a really weird theme all around. Yeah, so anyways, more specifically about the video I made, there's some really funny segments in this one, I find. I really like the intro thing, and of course the soldier later on saying, the dinosaurs has been spotted, right? Requesting backup. that was all a lot of fun to come up with. And at the very end, just the the Jurassic Park Galador mashup. Pure cinema, just pure peak cinema. I'm really glad I drew the comparison between the Firehammer and Model Team as a series, because seeing the Firehammer and the Blue Fury Model Team car side by side like that, it just, it's a visual way to prove the point that I'm trying to make, in that the Firehammer is just like ridiculously out of scale with minifigures. Like you never release a set like the size of Blue Fury and then put like a minifigure like sitting in the chair there, like trying to operate it. It's like, that'd just be ridiculous. But yeah, they did that in 2005, and it was called the Firehammer, which, yeah, just kind of bonkers. Like that to me is that's an example of one of the more rewarding parts of being RR Slugger, doing this whole YouTube thing, in that I approach these videos with like an adult perspective, of course, but it's informed by childhood experiences. And as a kid, I could always recognize that, like, wait, this set is like way too big. What's going on? But I couldn't like really put into words like why it felt that way or what it reminded me of, right? But as an adult, I can look back and be like, oh, it's a Model Team set. It's the size of a Model Team car. That's why it feels so weird to put a minifigure in it. And that's really rewarding. Yeah. I think we're going to run into another instance where the commentary is going to be longer than the video itself. This is the Introducing Time Drifters video, and when I talk about videos that were a total joy to make, this one's just right up at the top of the list. I loved setting up all the photos of Timmy and the Doctor on the beach, and just coming up with new inventive ways to play with the storytelling medium here. Normally in my videos, I crossfade between images, and I structure it in a way so that I don't have the same colored background used in between shots. Like, I actually pre-plan all of that. I make a shot list and everything, and yeah, it takes a lot of work, but hopefully the results are worth it. However, for this video specifically, I wanted to just do hard cuts to keep it moving, keep the action going, and to kind of simulate movement without actually having to like animate anything. I had done something like this with Timmy and the Doctor back in the Lego Studios video I did, that like the Monster Studios, when they get captured by the communists and whatnot. So yeah, I just wanted to keep that style and use it here. And the reason why Timmy and the Doctor are talking about this is because Time Drifters is the theme that we came up with, our Slugger community came up with for this year. And I do have some say in determining what the theme is going to be. Ultimately, I guess it is my decision, but I let the folks in the Summer of Slug Discord server decide what they're going to do. And we kind of put it to a vote, I suppose. And, you know, it is a bit of a popularity contest in that regard. But we really went ahead with this idea mostly because, I mean, and it's tough to remember this now, but 2025, at least for the LEGO group, was the year of F1, right? Like they were big on the F1 cars and stuff like that. That, to me, just kind of feels like a distant memory at this point, but we wanted to kind of lean into that race car sort of aesthetic and do something in keeping with that. Now, I did get a lot of comments saying that, like, isn't this just Lego Racers, right? Like the Lego Racers games, like, you know, race cars from all across time and space. And yeah, yes. I don't see the problem with that. It's a good theme, you know. let's just do it. Let's do it as a community. Let's have fun with it. Yeah. So that was Time Drifters. I'm sure I'll have more things to say about the theme itself later on when we get to the finale of the Summer of Slug. But for now, just the whole setup, the preamble, this video, the bloopers that actually happened, right? You know, like we didn't make fake bloopers. I just kind of kept them in because I thought they were funny, and then animated a way around them, essentially. Yeah, like all of this was just such a blast. I don't do the voice of both characters, by the way. I don't do Dr. Cyber. That's one of my friends. He's got a good kind of Doc Brown impersonation, like ish, you know. Like I think he would say it's pretty terrible. Maybe some other people would say so too, but he sure does it a lot better than I can. Timmy, it's me, Dr. Cyber. You know, like, that's me. Like that's I'm no good at that, so I gotta let him do it. But I can do the Tim voice, all right. You know, wow, Dr. Cyber. You know, like, yeah. So, anyways, we both stand in front of one microphone, and we both have a script in our hands, and we just kind of like shout it at each other. And there's a lot of like speaking over each other as well too, and you definitely get that like when you listen to the video. Like he's cutting me off in some spots, I'm cutting him off in some spots, and it just kind of keeps the energy moving. But it does make editing the whole thing a nightmare. So I don't like take the best takes or anything. It's just no, we'll just read through it a couple of times, and then I just go with whichever one was the best. So the imprecision of it is fairly off-brand for our Slugger, but I also think it's funny, and I think being funny is more important to me. I guess lastly, I'm going to talk about the Eurobeat remix of the Time Cruisers theme that I made for the series, or for this mock series, I should say. And I don't think I'm ever going to get another chance to talk about it, so, you know, here's my opportunity. You might have already made this connection, but one of the things I did when I created it is I actually took my original mix of the Time Cruisers theme that I created years ago for the retrospective series, and I like opened up that project file again, you know, blew off the dust and whatnot, made a copy of course, before, you know, getting to making my edits. But then I took out the drum line from that original recording and substituted in Eurobeat, and then we like added sections to it. Like I added in this guitar doing the kind of the clock chime thing, the da 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 da. I kind of thought that would be a neat little melody to throw in there, just something different to change it up. And the most rewarding part of that song, like creating that song to me, was the come on, like that sound bite that you hear, like that pops up throughout the song. That's actually one of the preset sounds in the Roland Juno G synthesizer, and that's the synthesizer I use for everything. All of these songs are recorded with it. I've used that synthesizer now for oh my gosh, it's going to be close to 20 years, right? Back when I bought it, and I've used it for everything Slugger related, everything that involves music, I should say. And anyways, it comes with a demo song built into it, and the demo song is actually like recorded in it, like each of the wave files of each of the segments, like the guitar and the drums and everything, like they're all separate files, because you can actually record music directly in the synthesizer using its interface. And I used to do that. It has a 4-channel mixer on it and everything. And when I was a kid, I would definitely record my songs in there. But it still has those preset sounds built into it, and one of them's the come on. Like so I just I remembered that it was there, and I put it in the Eurobeat remix, and it's just awesome. Yeah, it's great workout music, by the way. I definitely have exercised to it more than on one occasion. So, yeah, if you're looking for, some exercise music, there you go. Anyways, that's the Time Drifters announcement video. I intentionally sprinkled Dr. Cyber and Tim throughout the Summer of Slug as kind of like callbacks to this idea of Time Drifters. And I thought that would be a fun thing to do, but the only problem I ran into was that I already use both of those characters in a lot of videos. Like, they just kind of pop up from time to time. So I don't think that, my intention was being recognized, right? Like, I think folks just didn't pick up on it because it was so in keeping for Slugger to just have Tim or Dr. Cyber appear in random shots that there was nothing out of the ordinary here. So I might try to do that idea again this upcoming summer, depending on what we choose to do as the mock theme. Maybe there'll be some sort of mascot character that can pop up in all the videos, because I think it's a fun way to tie the whole summer together. In this case, though, it just so happened that the two mascot characters were already in a ton of photography that I use very regularly for my channel. So good intentions. Maybe the execution just wasn't as overt as I would have liked it to have been. All right, it's the video for the Solar Snooper. Where has this set been my whole life? My goodness. Now, this is a bit of a longer video. It clocks in almost at 20 minutes. Now, part of that is the Summer of Slug, doing some of the Patreon shout-outs at the very end of the video, which isn't typical for me during my normal videos throughout the rest of the year. So that tacks on a little bit of time, but there's still quite a bit of runtime here unaccounted for. And that's kind of for a number of reasons. One reason is because this is the very first Space Police set that I'd ever talked about in detail on my channel, and therefore it kind of became a video about Space Police, in particular Space Police 2. more than just the Solar Snooper. In that regard, it reminds me a lot of the video I made for the Recon robot at the start of the first summer of Slug. That video became basically, here's Spyrius, right? And also the Recon robot was a part of it too. So this video was a way for me to look at one specific set that I wanted to focus on, but more importantly, kind of look at the series as a whole, kind of zoom out and talk about all of that stuff too, because I'm talking about the Galactic Mediator and the Rebel Hunter in this video alongside the Solar Snooper. So it's kind of all in one, which is kind of nice. I like that feature about this video. There's also a little bit of what you might call an embedded disclaimer at the start of this video as well too. Just kind of talking to how I would go about discussing police forces and what sort of lens I would take with that. This was really a damned if I do, damned if I don't sort of situation though, because if I talk about it, it's going to upset some people, and if I don't talk about it, it's going to upset some people, so yeah, what do you do? Anywho, I tried my best to thread the needle here. I thought I did a pretty adequate job of that, but no disclaimer is going to be right for everyone. Actually, no video is going to be perfect for anyone either, right? So despite the length of the video I'm talking about here, I don't really have a ton to say about the video and the process of making it. I had a lot of fun working with this the Space Police set and Space Police in general. I got to photograph a lot of this that I'd never photographed before, doing some of the shots where like the Space Police chief was pulling someone over at like the space intersection, because they were going a little too fast, right? Those were kind of some fun creative shots. There were some, I think there was one where they were arguing over like a pizza that got delivered. It was one of the World City pizzas from the last summer of Slug, so that was kind of a fun little detail to add to. Unfortunately, I chose to do a couple of shots, at least one shot in here, where the space police officers were just saluting their police chief, and that unfortunately got misinterpreted as the wrong kind of salute. Yikes. No, not what I meant. But minifigures lack a little bit of flexibility, let's say, right? Like there's only so many poses you can put them in, and then the rest is up to our imagination to interpret what they're kind of doing. And some folks had a bit of a wild imagination there, I must say. But yeah, the Solar Snooper. This is definitely my favorite wave of Space Police, though I do have a lot of respect for Space Police 3 as well. I think it was fun to kind of talk about this, but I can't imagine me doing it in any significant detail in the future as well. Like, you're not going to see a Rebel Hunter video from RR Slugger or a Galactic Mediator video from RR Slugger. I kind of talked about all I needed to discuss about those sets in this video, so yeah, it's kind of like all in one-stop shop. In the immortal words of Streetheart, it's all mediocre trash. This is before the descent into mediocrity, and I knew this video, and especially that headline, was gonna ruffle some feathers, but I did it anyways. I guess here's my opportunity to maybe defend my decision-making a little bit. I didn't mean it in terms of all of LEGO Star Wars has just become mediocre sets, like the quality of the builds and all that sort of stuff. What I meant by it rather, is that there used to be something very special and unique about LEGO Star Wars. And I talk about it in this video. I talk about the alternate builds. The emphasis on alternate builds, that was something that LEGO Star Wars did and nobody else did. Like, no other LEGO series was doing it to the same extent of LEGO Star Wars. And that was what made this series special, in my opinion. Once they started phasing that out, and then eventually they got rid of it, what else did LEGO Star Wars have that made it special, right? Like, I don't know, right? I kind of gesture around it, okay, so they're, LEGO constructions that are based on film sets and film props and, scenes from a movie with flesh tone figures that kind of look like the people in the movie. What's special about that? Yeah, that's everything Lego does these days, right? Like, so that's what I meant by the descent into mediocrity. I didn't mean that that they're making like bad sets now, right? Like that's not at all what I meant by that. But I think some folks interpreted it that way. And I could have been more specific for sure. You know, like I'm not saying they interpreted it unfairly or anything like that. You know, I think that's a fair assessment of what I might have been projecting in the video. But it's not really what I meant. It wasn't my intention. So just like any RR Slugger video that you've seen that talks about a singular set, it's really just being used as a vehicle to talk about something larger. And I think this is a great example of that. So in the video, I talk about the T16 Skyhopper because I had actually just recently picked it up that summer for the first time, never had had that set before, and was really curious about it and found that it had a bunch of really interesting elements and kind of like an interesting history to it as well too. So I was inspired to write a script about it, but I seized that opportunity. I took that opportunity to talk about LEGO Star Wars as a whole, and I used the T16 Skyhopper and its placement in the LEGO Star Wars timeline to kind of illustrate that downward descent into LEGO Star Wars just becoming another LEGO theme. Some folks jived with it, some folks didn't, and you know, that's okay. If you're one of those people who can't see the intrinsic value of alternate builds, I don't know if I can lead you to the water there. You either get it or you don't. And I did hear from a lot of people who don't get it or who don't, you know, agree with that, who are just saying like, so what are you talking about, Slugger, right? Photos on the back of a box, that's what makes early LEGO Star Wars better than new LEGO Star Wars? You know, give me a break, right? Yeah, like, I don't know. You either get that or you don't. It's not for everyone, I guess. So for me, building those alternate builds on the back of the box, it's like getting 3 sets in one. Like it adds tremendous value to the LEGO set, and it shows that breadth of creativity that could be achieved with the pieces included. And yeah, it just plays to the toyetic nature of LEGO. It's not a model kit. You're not supposed to build it once and forget about it. Yeah, I don't know. Here I am trying to lead these people to the water. They're probably not listening right now, so... Yeah, anyways, I enjoyed the alternate builds so much that I think I did this on the live stream, if I remember correctly, but I actually went and reconstructed the second alternate build that I showed in the video, the one with the delta wing shape to it, because I actually enjoyed the alternate build more than I enjoyed the main model. That's how good I thought it was. And it's still put together in my collection in that form. It's not in the T16 Skyhopper shape. It's in the alternate build version. So I think that's pretty cool. I've had this idea for a long time, and I'd like to do it sometime. Maybe this upcoming summer, actually. Maybe I'll put that as a potential option. But I think it's bad advice for constructing alternate builds. I think that's the video title. Maybe that was one of the pitches last year. It's been so long since I looked at that. But I think there's a bunch of best practices that you can do to better your accuracy and improve the overall product of reverse engineering alternate builds. And I know a couple of folks that do this a lot who I wouldn't mind getting their input on for a script for that. So if that sounds interesting to you, just let me know. Yeah, okay. Anyways, LEGO Star Wars is terrible, and you're terrible if you like it. This is RR Slugger's top 5 favorite LEGO sets. This is a nearly, 18-minute video, like nearly 20 minutes long, and I have pretty much nothing to say about it. I really thought about something to say about the production of it, but I don't know, I'm coming up blank. I kind of talk about all the things regarding the sets within the video itself, so I don't really have anything to add there. The one thing I can think of here is that I really should have done the granite grinder fake out from Power Miners. That would have been a good kind of punchline for before revealing the #1 pick. Just say like, it's the granite grinder, this granite grinder, or whatever, something to that effect. It's okay that it's not there. It doesn't hurt the video that I didn't do that, but maybe a missed opportunity, I suppose. Other than that, yeah, like, it is what it is. It's a top 5 list. I haven't changed my mind on any of them, you know? So, yeah, okay, cool. Moving on. All right, here we go. Slugger meets the King. I was so fortunate to have this opportunity to sit down with Jamie from TrikBrix and chat with him about like everything, you know, his history with Lego, his history with the YouTube channel, how, you know, that inspired me to create this channel. Like there is no RR Slugger without Jamie from TrikBrix first. Jamie was feeling a little under the weather, but he soldiered through. We've got a 2-hour discussion here, and I think it's really good, like a really good take, I suppose. It's not like we were going to retake it or anything like that, but you can just sit and put it on, and like the conversation flows. We cover a lot of topics. Yeah, I think it turned out really well. And some folks were saying, you know, we should do this every year or something like that. So I don't know, maybe I'll talk to Jamie here and see if he wants to do something like that this summer. Maybe we can make it happen. To me, it's just so cool to live in a world where we can still get new TrikBrix stuff. You know, Jamie's still doing what he does. Like just this morning, before I came down here to record any of this sort of stuff, a new TrikBrix video popped up in my subscription feed. And I got to sit there and watch and listen as Jamie talked about Lego Pirates and you know, showed off this beautiful set dressing and everything. Like the guy just keeps getting better. I don't understand how. Like he was already, you know, top of his class, and now it's just above and beyond. It's crazy. It's just a joy to watch. I don't know how our Slugger still has more subscribers than TrikBrix. That's wrong. It just feels wrong to me. If you're listening to this and you're subscribed to me but not to him, you need to go subscribe to Jamie. You got to go do that. Like, as I was setting up this interview, I definitely had a thought, you know, the saying, right? Never meet your heroes. I guess you never know what they're going to turn out to be like, right? But I felt that we were on a very similar wavelength. You know, we got along really well. We're still in pretty much constant contact with each other. Yeah, you know, we're always chatting about our mutual love of Galador or something. But since his return, it's been really cool to see how Jamie's new stuff has continued to influence me, but also how, I don't, maybe it's presumptuous of me to say, but I think some of our Slugger's stuff has influenced Jamie a little bit as well, too. I know Jamie has been a little bit more vocal about why he appreciates, you know, retro Lego and what makes it different. Where's the line in the sand between, you know, the two different companies, basically, of Lego of past and Lego of today. And I don't feel like that's something like old TrikBrix would have done, but perhaps a post-RR Slugger TrikBrix would pursue that sort of train of thought a little bit more. I know I've definitely heard from other Lego YouTubers that I'll leave them anonymous because I don't want to out anyone here, but I've received comments before, or not comments, messages, I should say, where they'll tell me, you know what, like Slugger, secretly, I really appreciate what you're saying. You know, I'm not in a position where I can do that or whatever, but, you know keep fighting the good fight. So, I don't know, maybe it's having a little bit of an effect there. Yeah, it's really cool to see. Obviously, like I've been repeating over and over, there is no RR Slugger without TrikBrix, and I really do mean that. So, like, I owe it all to Jamie, and I really appreciate him being as open and understanding as he is. Like, he didn't come back out of the blue and then say, like, whoa, who's this slug that's ripping off my format, ripping off my style, right? No, he's been very generous with his time, and yeah, continues to be a good friend. So what more can you ask for? It's Modulex! Yeah, Modulex. I've always wanted Modulex ever since I first learned about it a few years back, but I could just never get my hands on any. Thankfully, fellow Lego nerd Riley sent me a good supply of Modulex, so I was able to make a video about it, and I had a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Riley, for doing that. So in approaching this video, I kind of had to go about it a different way compared to what I usually do, which is to nerd out about all the different things, like all the different specialized pieces, and how does this tap into the larger Lego tapestry, that sort of thing. But there are already videos on YouTube, and I talk about them in this video. I link them at the end, I think, where that has already been done, and it's already been done way better than I could do, because I don't know much about Modulex. And there isn't really a great deal of merit in reinventing the wheel, right? So it would just take like a ton of time and effort to basically, research and learn all these things, do all the interviews, just to get on par with what other people have already done in preserving Modulex and telling the story. So that didn't feel like a worthwhile venture for me to undertake. So I decided to kind of go about this differently. I decided, you know what, let's just have fun with Modulex. Let's see what's possible to build with it. So I actually sat down with my partner, and she and I built a bunch of these different models, and I just took photos of them and kind of talked about them. Now, she's not really a Lego fan. She doesn't build with Lego, but she likes things that are mini-sized, like miniaturized things, So like anything that is like intentionally tiny kind of, like piques her interest, right? So when I showed her these Lego bricks that were tiny Lego bricks, she was like, ooh, okay, well, this looks fun. Let's play with these. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's definitely a fascination of hers. But it allowed us to sit down and kind of hang out for a few hours building some Modulex mocks, some Modulex, I guess. Anyways, all of this culminates in a little stop motion gag at the very end of the video that I'd completely forgotten about. I forgot I ever did that, so it definitely caught me off guard and got a good laugh out of me. I think it's a pretty funny punchline for the video. And yeah, we're in and out. Bada bing, bada bang. That's Modulex. Since making this video, on occasion I have used Modulex in some of my photography to represent Lego pieces. Like minifigures, like observing Lego pieces or playing with Lego pieces, because it's like, it's their version of Lego. And yeah, it's made for some pretty cool shots. So yeah, I'm very thankful to have been given this opportunity. Slugger hates modern Lego. Or does he? Or does he? Yes, that is the question. Anyways, this video was kind of an interesting one to make. It's, in retrospect, it's a very self-centered video. It feels like, oh, it's just me talking about me. And now that I'm currently making a video right now, this very second, that is me talking about me, the irony isn't lost on me. With that being said, this was my way of kind of paying tribute to the great Lego sets that have come out in the past 10 years, because there are some that I think are truly great, and I just try to show them off in this video. Now, I can't hide the fact that I far prefer the design sensibilities of, 90s Lego, 80s Lego, even early 2000s Lego, compared to what we have today. But that doesn't stop me from appreciating some of the more modern offerings. Will I ever talk about a series like Lego Dreams or Lego Hidden Side to the same extent as I would Lego Time Cruisers or Lego Rock Raiders? No, absolutely not. But still, to some extent here, I think it's worth pointing out that just because I focus all my attention on Lego in the 90s, I still have an appreciation for modern Lego. It's just a totally different breed. It's a very different animal. The bricks are compatible, but the company is very different. So I think that train of thought leads me to what was probably the most contentious point I made in the video, which is the demarcation line between vintage Lego and modern Lego. I think, and I still strongly believe this, the line is drawn between 2003 and 2004. And I even used, some visual imagery to back up my claim here by having old gray on one side of that line and new gray on the other side of the line. It's really tough, I think, to make the argument that the line should be drawn somewhere else instead of here. There are some other places I think you can put it. Some folks were saying, 2010 or 2009 might be a better spot for it because that's when you really start to see the effects take hold. But while I agree that the effects of the modernization, wouldn't happen until years later, I say as much in the video, of course. While I agree with that point, you really do have to, override or overrule the changes that you can see evident from 2003 to 2004. The great color purge, the introduction of curved elements, license themed skin tone minifigures, all of that sort of stuff kind of happens right about then. And that to me is really compelling. I think that's compelling evidence that this is where you draw the line between old and new. So if you want to draw the line at 2010 or 2015 or something like that, 2013, I think I even heard tossed around there, you have to have more than changing colors, changing skin tones of minifigures, licensed themes, curved elements, all this stuff kind of piling up between 2003 and 2004. There's got to be a better argument than that. And I just don't think there is one. Even though I do agree that some of these changes wouldn't fully take hold until much later, especially the plate-based construction one. That's a very gradual change. That wasn't like a light switch sort of change, like the way that the color palette thing was. So that one's kind of hard to pin down, but I think the seeds were planted in the early 2000s. I said I was going to be self-conscious at the start of this video, but yeah, here I am agreeing with my argument I made in my video. So anyways, throughout much of this video, I was praising Robert Heim's recent contributions to LEGO, while also losing my mind over the possibilities that, his creativity could bring to the company. It makes me want to tear my hair out in frustration that they have the talent working for the company right now to make a truly spectacular LEGO space theme, but they just won't do it. Ugh, that's so frustrating. Because it's it's one of those things that I've actually heard talked about regarding the video game industry before. That, what's the reason why we're not seeing, such landmark video games anymore? Why is there no more, System Shock 2s that are, kind of defining a whole new genre unto themselves? And there's this argument that, the talent literally just doesn't exist in the game development world anymore. Now, I'm not saying I subscribe to these arguments or anything like that. I really don't know. But it's an interesting thing to think about, and I've definitely heard these sort of thoughts expressed. So, your Ken Levines, your Warren Spectors, Sid Meier, Brian Reynolds, Hideo Kojima, like these sorts of folks. I guess the argument kind of boils down to these folks grew up with as almost like visionaries, they wanted to experiment and see what they could do with the new medium, all that cool stuff, and they left their mark on the industry, and that's fantastic. And now the younger generation grew up playing their games, right? These are the folks that grew up playing System Shock 2 and BioShock and whatever, right? And those folks that grew up playing those games already had a template defined for them. They had this kind of showed this is what you can do with video games. And so they kind of grew up playing that stuff and they're like, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I want to make a game like that. And that's kind of the problem, right? Is they're trying to recapture something that a visionary created, and you lose that breadth of talent that you might have once garnered. Because you just don't get that sort of, cutting edge stuff anymore. It's all based on something that has been predefined. It's like they're playing within the sandbox. They're not trying to define the sandbox. And I guess I'm talking about this because I think there's an argument to be made that perhaps something similar has gone on within the LEGO group. Because when the designers, the LEGO designers, first invented the minifigure, they were charting, uncharted territory, exploring this whole new scale to build LEGO at. And we just saw so many cool, creative concepts, especially in LEGO Space. I always go to LEGO Space because it's just such a home of creativity. Throughout the 1980s and especially in the 1990s, just so many wacky ideas thrown at the wall. Into the early 2000s, that kind of spills over and you get weird designs of Zalix racers, Galador, right? Like all these crazy things. Snap, right? There's another one. Just wild ideas. And then LEGO stabilizes, right? And you move into the 2010s, especially LEGO City, it becomes very stagnant. And nowadays, we just kind of get like better and better iterations of things we've previously seen. You don't get as much like medium defining stuff. And I guess the argument is then that the reason why this is happening is because the designers that are making the modern sets grew up playing within the sandbox that was envisioned by the visionaries, I suppose, right? And that's why everything has stagnated, is because you don't get people coming into, the blue sky anymore. They're kind of moving in, and everything's been, like, here are the boundaries, build within the boundaries, that sort of thing. Add to that a, company culture that is completely adverse to risk taking. And yeah, you get a formula that leads to just a lot of, the same thing in, same thing out, and that's kind of what we see with modern LEGO, at least in my opinion, from my perspective, right? That's why there just isn't much that truly excites me anymore about LEGO. And it's very unlikely there ever will be again, which is really sad to say, but it is the way it is. And it's not like being blinded by nostalgia, as every time I voice these concerns, I always get people that throw that same tired cliche back at me saying, oh, you're just blinded by nostalgia. No, there is a marked difference between what LEGO did in the 90s versus what they do now. And one scratches a certain itch that the other one just can't, and probably vice versa, to be honest. It's okay to have preferences. I feel like I've a broken record at this point in time. It's okay to prefer one way of doing things versus another way. That's fine. You don't have to chalk that up to, being stuck in the past or some sort of moral failing or whatever. No, it's a preference. Like, if you like the color yellow or the color red, that's a preference. It doesn't mean you're stuck in the past, stuck in your childhood ways. Why can't you adapt? Like, if your favorite color's red, then your favorite color's red. That's that. There's no argument to be had. So basically, this Slugger hates modern LEGO video is Slugger saying, my favorite color's red, though I can appreciate yellow at certain times. So yeah, sorry, a little bit rambly here, but I think it's an interesting thought, this idea of like, how does talent express itself? What sort of environments lead to creating opportunities for talent to shine through, right? It's maybe unfair to say like, oh, these people who came in after the visionaries just aren't as talented, like cannot be as talented. No, it might not be that. It might be that the environment that they've come into doesn't allow them to express that sort of talent anymore, right? Because the culture has been built upon what worked in the past. Therefore, we must continue to do what worked in the past, or like these safe decisions, right? We can't take risks and do bold visionary things anymore because that's risky. We don't want to lose it all, right? Got to keep the line moving up, capitalism, right? So that's kind of I guess where I was going with all of that there. So yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. Let me know. Anyways, I think that's basically it here. I've talked quite a bit about this without really talking much about the video I made. In the video, I do talk about some of Robert Heim's later LEGO City things with the really great bulldozer set. And I mentioned the tow truck set as well, too. And I kind of say, like, it's a little over-engineered for my taste. I actually came to kind of downright hate that tow truck. So yeah, I took it apart and just like scrapped it. I put the pieces into my bulk collection. It's just so over-engineered. I really like the little tipper truck that came with it too, but not the tow truck, man. That was a bridge too far for me. So who knows, maybe 2026 will have some sets that interest me, and maybe I'll talk about them. I don't know if I've purchased any. Yeah, I don't know if I've bought any Lego sets yet this year. Yeah, wow, okay. I still got to go out and get the new DeLorean. So I guess there's one. I guess, like, I got the tractor recently. Is that a 2026 set? Maybe. And I did have to buy one for the Super Teleport video, the little yellow taxi set as well. So if that's 2026, then I guess I got that one there too. But yeah, they just kind of blur together. And there isn't a lot on the horizon that interests me, which is fine, right? You know, I've got hundreds of Lego sets here in this house. Yeah, more than enough Lego to last a lifetime. I really don't need more of it. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I don't need to be talking about the latest and greatest stuff coming out of the Lego group these days. For being one of the shortest videos in this summer of Slug, this was definitely one that received disproportionately the most attention, I think. This is the video I made on the Fabuland Amusement Park. With stop motion animation and voice acting from multiple different people, this one took a while to cook up, and it was one that I knew I absolutely wanted to do this summer. I wanted to get this video done, but finding the time in everyone's schedules to make it work was a big challenge. Initially, I wanted to have us all read our parts at the same time in the same room together, but you know, as the summer wore on, that just looked less and less likely. So eventually, I had to capitulate and just record everyone individually. Ultimately, I'm okay with this because I think it actually turned out better. You can hear, like, when my friend and I do our Tim and Dr. Cyber, voice acting, and we stand in front of the same mic and, shout the lines at each other, you can definitely hear a lot of room reverb, it kind of bouncing around in the room there. And it would have been even worse had there been four of us standing around one microphone, trying to write or read our lines, I mean. So recording everyone individually allowed me to do better noise cancellation, and so therefore the audio quality was much improved. So in this video, I played the voice of the narrator as well as Ricky Raccoon, because Ricky Raccoon only had one line anyway, so I figured I might as well just do that. My partner played Catherine Cat. My brother played Freddie Fox, and channel artist Brett voiced Mike Monkey. I used a lot of the lessons I learned making the Race for Survival video way back when, multiple years ago. Basically the retelling of a Rock Raiders storybook. I used a lot of the lessons I learned there for this video, and kind of set up little tableaus of each scene, essentially. And the difference here is that I decided to animate them as well. We're not talking about anything insanely impressive animation-wise, but there was a lot of it done, and I did do this one at 24 frames per second, mostly as a bit of a proof of concept. Usually in the past I'd animated at 18 frames a second, but I thought the fluidity of 24 might look a little bit better here, and I wanted to make the best use of the Fabuland figures' increased posability, I suppose, in certain areas. Right, the neck articulation on Fabuland figures is really awesome, and you can do a lot of emotive expression with that. Basically, I just wanted to capture the charm and essence of the Fabuland instruction booklets that show the Fabuland figures building the set as you build it, while telling the story behind it. It's just wonderful. And so I tried to capture that with the stop motion animation. Beyond that, though, it was just fun to return to Fabuland. I always enjoy making videos about this theme, and we might see some more in the future. Whether or not future videos will have that wonderful artwork by Cornell Pittman, that remains to be seen. Guess I'll have to reach out to him again and see what we can do. Okay, Sand Red, a complete collection. This is a follow-up, kind of a sequel video to Sand Purple, a complete collection, which I made in a previous summer of Slug. I've got to be honest, I was really hesitant about making this video, and I probably wouldn't have done it out of my own volition had it not been for General Trex, who sent me all the rest of the pieces I needed for completing my Sand Red collection. And my trepidation boils down to one of these minifigures is a Harry Potter figure, and I would have to talk about Harry Potter, and that would be unavoidable if I were to make a video like this. So I don't really want to talk about J.K. Rowling here, but yeah, her current actions as a person with money and influence kind of taint her legacy as an author and her previous works and whatnot. So you can't really talk about one without including the other. They're kind of linked. I get the whole idea of separating art from artist, and that's fine and all, but usually that's done in regards to an artist who has passed, right? Like passed away, I mean, and you don't have to like actively live with their influence. But in this situation, we have a person who's using her money and power to target a minority and make their life worse, right? So, like, you can perhaps appreciate the art, but you most certainly should not be giving any money towards this art. And sometimes even just talking about it, even just platforming it, is enough to lead to future sales of the product, right? It's like free advertisement. So if you don't also state that, well, the creator of this work is kind of abhorrent, right? Like if you don't put the two of those together, you're platforming something that has a monetary interest in making the lives of a marginalized group of people even worse. And that's really my beef that I have with her is, her approach to feminism. Like, she proclaims to be a feminist, but she's a punching down feminist, not a punching up, right? The problems in society don't come from above, they come from below. That's kind of her stance on it. And I just don't think that's very useful, picking on minorities, scapegoating, fear-mongering the uneducated. That's kind of her MO. Anyways, I'll save you the rest of the rant, but just know that what we're talking about here constitutes 2 seconds of a 14-minute video, so maybe it's time we talk about the other 14 minutes. So in addition to all the new photography and sets I was showing off in the video, I also tried to make the case that Sand Red was doomed because Sand Purple existed. Basically, the argument goes that Sand Purple and Sand Red were never able to stake their own claim in LEGO's color portfolio because they were too similar to each other, and they couldn't demonstrate why they should survive, like why they should exist in the worst time ever to be put in that peril, right? Early 2000s, right on the cusp of 2003, 2004, that's when the color purge happened. Yeah, that was the worst time ever to be a floundering LEGO color. And I think I blew a few minds, actually, by pointing out that Sand Red would probably still be around today if it made it just long enough for masonry bricks to pick it up and carry it the rest of the way. Yeah, a lot of folks are pretty sad to hear, like, they're like, oh no, like we could have had Sand Red masonry bricks, that would have been so perfect. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a theory, right? It's a thought, who knows? And so maybe if Sand Purple didn't exist, Sand Red would have had enough clout to make it. I don't know, it's tough to say. Either way, it's a pretty stinging loss, I think. Sand Red would have been perfect for masonry bricks. But otherwise, I don't see either one of these colors, Sand Purple or Sand Red, ever making a return. Their muted aesthetic is, I don't know, it's very early 2000s, I think. Just doesn't seem to be in vogue these days. They're kind of like weird tones, I suppose. Weird hues, you just wouldn't really use them today. Except for masonry bricks. Yeah, we'd use them for masonry bricks, I think. I guess one of the other things I talk about in this video is Luke's land speeder from that Mos Eisley Cantina set. The Sand Red coloration of it. I think in the video I was a little bit more no, I don't really buy the sand red color. But I got into a few discussions, and some folks kind of convinced me. They won me over. I think sand red probably is the right color to depict the land speeder. I was really tickled to be able to get that set, by the way. I know I mentioned it in the video script because I was so pleased to be able to finally acquire it for a halfway decent price at that. It's just a little tiny set. It's got so much character, so many cool minifigures included in it. And I got to use it again later on, and we'll see it coming up here in a video towards the end. Throughout the video, I made sure to include the Mtron astronaut with the powerlifter arm, kind of as a callback to the Sand Purple video that I made that featured that minifigure quite prominently. So yeah, I tried to recapture some of that cool liminal sort of photography. I don't know. I think it was fun kind of to do that sort of stuff again. Overall, I really like the structure of the video, the framework and everything as well too. I spent the time talking about the history of the sand colors and outlining the sets and the years that Sand Red was available, and then going through it year by year and, talking about each set and the pieces that went into it. And then finally kind of pulling the rug and saying, well, actually, a lot of these pieces come from service packs, weirdly enough, right? And then talking about the service packs afterwards. I think that was a cool way to structure it. It's got a good flow to the video. Sometimes those like transitions are tough, getting from topic to topic, but I feel like this one moved pretty fluidly. So yeah, I think those are my thoughts on the Sand Red collection video. I don't see myself doing another one of these videos. I mean, to be honest, I didn't see myself doing this one either, so who knows? But the other sand colors obviously are way too prolific. They're still making pieces for them, so you can't even say your collection's complete. And I don't really have like a strong desire to collect all the pieces of a certain color. It's just, I don't know, it happened out of happenstance initially with Sand Purple. I just kind of like realized, oh, I guess I have all the Sand Purple pieces now. Interesting, right? Maybe I'll make a video about that. And then this one was kind of, I don't want to say forced, but like it didn't come along organically, let's say, right? We had to, the stars had to align for this to happen. We had to move the stars around in the sky. So yeah, I think this was a good one. Probably one of the better videos from the Summer of Slug, if you ask me. But despite, the 2 seconds spent, mentioning what is and shouldn't be a contentious issue, I think the rest of it is really solid. And, I don't shy away from, standing up for a marginalized group of people when I can. Okay, onwards and upwards. This is Blacktron 1.5 again? Yeah, this is another sequel video, I suppose, to the previous Summer of Slug. So it's got that in common with the previous video as well. This was another video where I knew I had to make it this summer. I absolutely must make this video because of the timeliness of it. Yalny, I can't say his name. Bjarne Pendurtriskal. I'm trying. I'm so sorry. Bjarne. Yeah, let's go with that. Bjarne posted about the Blacktron video that I had made on his blog and provided a photo of his Spectron ship. And that was really cool. It was really interesting to learn that backstory, but it was also cool to be like recognized like that by a Lego creator, a Lego designer, I should say. So that was a cool feeling for me. And I wanted to pay tribute to that by making another video kind of exploring that and taking a look at the Spectron ship. Juniper was really helpful in reverse engineering the builds, as she always is, so we were able to make step-by-step instructions for it as well, too, so that was a lot of fun. It was cool taking photos of it and, kind of speculating upon its creation and all that sort of jazz, but yeah, it's a cool, short, kind of to-the-point video. It's got some funny bits in it, but I don't have too much more to say about it. I think that's that. And just like that, the summer was over. This is the finale of the Summer of Slug 2025. I really really enjoyed this summer. This one, like I think I mentioned it earlier, this one really felt like I cracked the code. We'd finally figured out how to make the Summer of Slug sustainable, and I hope for a lot of longevity in its future. The custom mock theme, Time Drifters, turned out to be a big hit, big smashing success. And there was, I think, more entries this year than ever before, which was quite the task for us to deal with on our end. But, you know, there've been improvements. You know, the Google form really helped out, helped sort everything for us, and made it a lot easier to compile everything into one final showcase at the end. I think the comedy with Dr. Cyber and Tim really works in this one. I had a lot of fun doing the whole intro segment for this. And I had a lot of not fun compiling the slideshow of all the entrants, but that you know, it comes with the territory. That's what the people are here to see, right? It takes a tremendous amount of work every summer to do this. But at the same time, it's the least I could do. If we look at the tremendous amount of work that people put into their submissions for the Summer of Slug, then, you know, what am I doing? It's just a drop in the bucket compared to all that. So, yeah, it's the least I can do. I really appreciate everyone's support, either just through watching the videos or through supporting through Patreon. It keeps the Summer of Slug going. Hopefully it'll keep going for many years to come. And speaking of, we're already in the works preparing the next Summer of Slug, and it's going to be a good one. I think you'll enjoy it. 50,000 is a big number. Yeah, here we have kind of a back-to-back sort of celebration, right? Because the previous video was the end of the Summer of Slug, big celebration for that, the big finale. And then it just so happened that, you know, a few days later, I crossed the 50,000 subscriber threshold. So, okay, got to make a video about that too, because it is a big milestone. Honestly, that's halfway to 100,000, halfway to that silver YouTube play button, right? And it provided a really nice opportunity for me to go back and kind of catalog the chronicles of the beginning of the channel, more or less. I had a lot of fun doing that, honestly, in this video. I know for some folks that have been here a long time, some of this is old hat, but a lot of folks, evidently, right, are joining for the very first time, and they might not know all that sort of history and the mindset and rationale that I approach the channel with. So, you know, kind of outlining that in a video every now and then, I think is useful. And who knows, perhaps I shared some insight in this video that even longtime fans didn't or weren't aware of. So, yeah, I don't have terribly much to say about the video itself. I think I basically cover it all in the video. So, yeah, if you're curious about it, just go watch that video. It's a pretty infrequent occurrence that I build a Lego mock, and it's an even more infrequent occurrence that I show it off to the world. But there was something about the Mega Bathtub Racer that I just felt, you know what, there's actually something here. There's something we can talk about. And so I made a video about it, and I'm really glad I did, because I received a lot of really positive feedback on it. For one thing, it was really cool to showcase a non-Lego part in a Lego mock. Maybe a little bit of sacrilege or heresy there, but, you know, I thought I used it in an interesting and unique way. But then on the other side, it was really cool to talk about my approach to design with it, you know, using the Belleville bathtub and just kind of hiding that in there, and some other weird components, that like inverted slope brick for the computer, the white Rock Raiders wheels from the Star Wars set, that Arc 170 fighter, I think. The color scheme that omits black from it, that's kind of cool too, like dark gray, blue, and white as the color scheme. The minifigure design, just simple, kind of plain, to the point. Some of the engine details, all that sort of stuff. It was really fun to kind of, you know, showcase and be like, hey, this is what I made. I did that, you know? And I think the success of this video directly inspired the Lego Star Clipper video that, we'll talk about it when we get there, but the mock I built based on E.C. Henry's design. And who knows, maybe we'll see more our Slugger mocks in the future. Usually I don't, make a big spectacle of it, do a whole video dedicated to the one thing and say, like, here it is, look what I made. Partially because I don't feel that strongly about my mock building capabilities. But also because there isn't usually a lot to talk about. It's just like, here's the thing I made. Here are the pieces I used. It doesn't really scratch the itch that I crave when I make these videos. So that's partly why if you see mocks of mine, they're usually just kind of snuck in there. They're just kind of hidden in the background. So yeah. But it's nice to have a change of pace here, do something different. The Attack of Slugzilla! This was the perfect project to take on for a Halloween-themed video. A lot of the shots in this short little video that I made were ones that I had envisioned ever since I put the project together, like the whole the mock that Austin had sent me. Once you see how huge Slugzilla is, you just start thinking about, okay, he's gonna wander through the streets, right? People will be looking out the windows of their buildings and see him slide past, The cherry on top then was using audio from the Great Lego Plague of 2002 and distorting it as the Slug's voice. I just got such a kick out of the idea of this giant Lego file Slug just kind of moving through the streets, just spouting nonsense about the shapes and curvature of these Lego pieces, dimensions, and those sorts of things. So yeah, it was kind of a fun little, almost like self-dig, I guess, a little bit too. The wide shots in this video where it goes to the miniature Slug in the miniature city moving about were kind of cute. Those were fun to pull off. And I guess I resisted the urge to do a jump scare at the end because last year's Halloween video was much scarier, I think, and probably the year before that and the year before that as well too. But this time we went with maybe a little bit more of a wholesome ending. And in case you're curious, the video that I'm listening to at the end of this one, you hear me listening to something in the background as I'm making the video. It is one of Chris Perkins' videos on Heroscape. So I was listening to him talk about Heroscape as I was working away making a Lego video. But yeah, I think this video was a lot of fun. I wish more people would have watched it, but that's okay. The folks that did probably enjoyed it. I hope, at least. So now we finally cross the threshold into the Orient Expedition, the return of the Orient Expedition, long awaited by a lot of folks, actually. I was kind of surprised, and I honestly had not realized how long it had been since the last episode. Just time flies. Tempus fugit. Because of the lengthy hiatus, I felt it necessary to have a new disclaimer kind of at the start of this leg of the expedition. Partly because it had been such a long time since folks had seen the series, and obviously there were a lot of new folks, new eyes on the channel that probably didn't watch the old ones either, so they didn't catch it the first time around. So partly because of that, but also partly because China, the leg of the expedition that takes place in China here, is, I think, the most problematic of the three, unfortunately. It's got some great highs, but man, has it got some low lows. Yeah. I just wanted to make the expectations and the tact I would take with this series abundantly clear up front, so there'd be no question going forward what to expect. I totally understand that this is not a series for everyone, and a lot of folks out there might not agree with the way that I approach looking at the Orient Expedition. They might just want to talk about the Lego sets, and they don't see any of the other cultural stuff or historic stuff that I interrogate as being relevant. And that's fair. I guess that's fine to have that opinion. I think it's maybe wrong in that like the Orient Expedition, I've gone over this many times, but it explicitly ties itself to real world cultures in a way that other LEGO themes don't, right? The surrounding media, like the external media around it, talks about the history and the culture of these countries, and it tasks the audience to dig deeper. And that is just not something that's being asked of, you know, the LEGO fans of other LEGO series, other LEGO themes. It's very uniquely Orient Expedition. And in doing that, like, I applaud the series for doing that. I wouldn't be talking about it otherwise, right? Like, that is one of the cool aspects of the Orient Expedition. It's not just about the LEGO sets. The LEGO sets are an accessory to the overall message being sent. And that's what I find so fascinating about it. And if it didn't have that, you know, like, well, you know, these these videos just wouldn't exist. Like this retrospective series just wouldn't exist. So it kind of needs to have that element, and that's the reason why I'm talking about it in the first place. So if you're looking for LEGO videos or specifically Slugger videos where I talk about the Orient Expedition without talking about all the cool cultural and historic ties that are being represented, sorry, that's not a possibility. The video just wouldn't exist. It's that external stuff outside the LEGO bricks that is the interesting part of Orient Expedition to me. So in this first episode of the Chinese leg of the expedition, we take a look at two sets, the Thunder Blazer and the Black Cruiser. I don't have too much to say about the Black Cruiser other than I completely forgot to put the radiator cap on. Yeah, it's supposed to have a little black pip that sits on top of the front of the vehicle, the hood, I suppose, right, of the vehicle. And I just forgot to put that on, I guess. Whoops. For the Thunder Blazer, I had a good time kind of incorporating the plastic planes angle into it and kind of looking at the plane through that lens, trying to analyze it in the same way I would look at any of the LEGO planes that I do in that series. In doing so, though, I did have some folks chime in with a correction. Actually, a lot of folks chimed in with a correction. I talked about the guns on the top wing, and how it doesn't look like their arc of fire clears the propeller. Like, it looks like the propeller actually passes in front of the guns. And so I was saying, like, oh, you know, Johnny better watch out because he's going to blow the ends of his propellers off with his guns if he fires those. So a lot of folks were quick to rush in and tell me, well, Slugger, didn't you know that in World War I, a lot of airplanes were eventually designed to have synchronization fire between the propeller and the guns? There was like a blocker, a slave or whatever that stopped the guns from firing when the propeller was passing in front of them. And you're right. However, I had already considered this because I grew up reading all about World War I planes. I was very familiar with this concept. And to my knowledge, there is no real-world example of a synchronization system like this that is mounted on the top of the wing, right? The guns used to be mounted on the top of the wing because they couldn't fire through the propeller. So they would mount them up high so that they would just shoot past the propeller, essentially, not through it, right? And eventually they were able to design the system that I spoke about earlier, the synchronization fire system, right? And then they mounted the guns on the fuselage because they could be much more accurate down there, and you needed to be close to the propellers for the synchronization method to work, as I understand it. Like I could be wrong, but nobody was able to bring up an example of a plane that mounted the guns on the top of the wing and still had the synchronization system working of World War I sort of era, that sort of era of plane design. Yeah, so I didn't mention it because I dismissed the idea out of hand because I knew how these planes worked, right? I had some knowledge on that, but I guess I should have mentioned it and talked about dismissing it because it wouldn't work that way, right? I don't think Johnny Thunder's plane has a synchronization system because the guns are mounted on the wing. You just wouldn't mount them up there if you had a synchronization system. So the radiator cap, yeah, okay, I missed that one. But the guns on the airplane, no, I'm right about that. Anyways, a lot of folks were quick to say that the disclaimer that takes up a big chunk of the video at the start was kind of pointless in this video because there really wasn't any cultural depictions of China with these sets. And to be honest, that is kind of part of the problem with these sets, is that they are supposed to take place within China, but neither one of them really has anything that ties itself to the culture or the history of the country that they're visiting, unlike the other introductory sets that we'd seen in India and in Tibet. So yeah, like, I mean, I get what people were saying there. Like, yes, you're right. There is no cultural depictions of China within these two sets. So why put the disclaimer here? Well, I put the disclaimer here because I wanted to put it at the start of this leg of the expedition. But in doing that, it actually does kind of expose one of the problems with these sets. Like, and I mean, that was intentional on my part. I wanted to shine a spotlight on that and say, like, well, these sets really don't have anything to do with China. And, you know, like, I put up this big, heavy disclaimer at the start, and it's not relevant for the rest of the video. Isn't that strange? That's kind of strange, right? Like, it should be relevant here. That's kind of what I was getting at with that. Whether or not I made that explicit enough, I guess, is up to interpretation. But yeah, we'll need that disclaimer in the coming videos. Believe me, we'll need it. So now we're into the passage of Jun Chi. And this video was a lot of fun to make. There were a number of interesting avenues to explore in the script process, you know, charting out what I was going to talk about, but also in the photography side of things. Like, yeah, the Orient Expedition is always a series that lends itself well to this format, this retrospective format, I think. One of the things I talk about in the video is the Fengtianji, which is this pole arm, or at least what I think looks like a Fengtianji. Now, a lot of folks were quick to point out a different YouTube video to me, and this one was created by 6Dead0 Hema. It's called "Did LEGO Invent a Fake Medieval Pole Arm?" I don't think I'd seen this video before. It's really quite interesting. It's a fascinating look at the potential alternate origin of this polearm piece. Because like I mentioned in the video, it's not an exact match for the Fengtianji, but it's close, like it's ballpark, right? Whereas in this video that was recommended to me, the creator of the video went through and kind of found a potential Danish origin. It looks very similar to a Danish polearm, which is also quite likely as an alternate origin of the piece, given that, you know, LEGO is a Danish company. Where I get a little hung up in this explanation, though, this potential origin, is that we actually have designer notes from the designer of the LEGO set, the Dragon Fortress, as well as the same person designed the rest of the Chinese leg of the expedition here. I'm going to try my best with the name here. Bjark Lik Madsen. I don't think I got that right, but anyways, they write in their notes for it, I was lucky enough to also get a chance to design some new LEGO bricks for these sets, including the 1x1x6 column, the Orient-looking spear, a shorter version of the belt for the half-track vehicle, and together with Niels Milan, we designed the 3x3 disc parable that the soldiers could use as helmets, and the curved sword. So quite a few different things there, but one of the things that's mentioned is the Orient-looking spear, and they designed it apparently specifically for these sets. Like, it wasn't designed for some, blanket medieval purpose. Like, they designed it very specifically for Orient Expedition, is how I read that. So it would be curious if they were to have taken a Danish polearm as their primary source of inspiration for this weapon. I think that would be interesting. It doesn't necessarily track 100%, but at the same time, if it's a dead ringer, maybe that is what they did, and they thought, well, this looks close enough. It looks like it could be functionally interpreted as an Orient-looking spear for the series, and then maybe it's also just a more generic polearm mold that we can use in the future. Maybe that's how they approached it. I don't know. That it sounds plausible to me. Regardless, that's basically the main point I wanted to bring up in talking about this video. The rest of it is pretty straightforward, right? We covered the alternate builds and the set itself. One of the cool things that I think is still somewhat of a mystery is where does the set take place, right? Because if we follow the story of like the comic books and all that sort of external media, they make the passage of Jun Chi happen underneath like the Dragon Fortress, like it's supposed to take place underground, and that just to me is like, that's so undiegetic. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like given the set before you, if you were only given the set and like, would you make the connection that this is supposed to be underground underneath a fortress or something? It doesn't look like it should take place down there, right? So I think that's kind of just a matter of story convenience more than anything else. I suppose one historic correction I should probably put on the record here is that in the video I mention that polearms used in a military context would have been a distant memory in Warlord era China, and some folks that were a little bit more knowledgeable into that avenue of history were quick to correct me on that and say, no, there actually were these garrisons called long sword garrisons, and they basically had these long glaives that they would, go into combat with, sometimes as like defense, like trench defense, that sort of thing. And as well as the idea that Warlord era China was a chaotic, tumultuous time, and there wasn't like a de facto standing military or something like that. It was very divisional, factional sort of conflicts and power grabs, those sorts of things. So people fought with what they had, and it is possible that they might have had weapons like this. And so I think that's a reasonable correction. I think maybe where I push back a little on that, and I think it's why I have so much resistance to this leg of the expedition, is that we are shown only the obsolete, outdated, sort of like thrown together weaponry for depicting China. We're not shown any of the more state-of-the-art stuff, which was also available, right? Like it was a mixture of these things. So we're only shown one side of the coin here, and like, while that might be realistic, if you squint and cock your head, and do some headcanon stuff, trying to explain away who the Emperor is in this leg of the expedition, what these soldiers are supposed to be wearing, and like what their role is, like you can try to explain away all that sort of stuff. And yes, if you want to be overly generous, I think you can. The problem I run into here, though, is that we're, like I said, we're only shown one side of this, and we're not shown the other side, and that in and of itself is somewhat problematic, I think, like when we look at it historically. I think of the movie of Gods and Generals as an example of this, right? It's a movie about the American Civil War. And obviously, the American Civil War, one of the core tenets of the Civil War is the matter of slavery, right? What is that going to? How is that going to impact the nation? Like the South is fighting for the expansion and preservation of slavery, and the North, is fighting initially to keep the nation together, right, to preserve the Union. But eventually, abolitionism kind of works its way into that. Anyways, right, that's the long and short of it. In the movie Gods and Generals, though, the South, the Confederacy, they're depicted like it's from their point of view, more or less, right? But the only black people in the movie are either free slaves or are like willingly helping the Confederacy. We're not shown any of the real horrors of slavery in the movie. And to whitewash it like that is kind of problematic, right? It's only showing one side of the coin. And yes, perhaps there may have been some folks that were treated kindly like that and, and felt that way. That's, you don't want to erase that. But that wasn't, that's not, that doesn't show us the whole picture. So to bring it back to this Lego set and this Lego series here, you know, it's entirely possible that in Warlord era China, there were some soldiers that fought with crossbows and catapults and, you know, sticks and knives and those sorts of things, right? And, you know, that's well and good, but it's also realistic that many of them fought with rifles that weren't obsolete, rifles that were cutting edge, right? Machine guns, right? We have photographic evidence of this as well too, and we don't see any of that in the Orient Expedition. And so I think calling attention to that and like pointing a spotlight at it is kind of important. It serves a function. It allows us to learn from some of the omissions that are here, because the omissions sometimes speak loudly. The other thing I point out in the video is how little of the rest of the gang that we get to see in the end here, right? Like, this is it, you know, and we haven't even seen them, you know, we're like, we get to reconvene with them in the Dragon Fortress itself, but up until then, not a lot of stuff going on here. So that was kind of interesting to explore that. Some folks were like disappointed, like I am in that, but some folks said that they actually liked that decision because it made it seem like Johnny was maybe abandoning the group to go on this I guess foolhardy errand, maybe like revenge or something like that, you know. And it's only once the group reconvenes that he kind of like lets go of the chase and kind of focuses on what they're there to do anyways. So yeah, that's a neat interpretation too. I could definitely see that being a valid piece of headcanon there. But yeah, anyways, that's the passage of Jun Chi. Not too much more to say about it. We interrupt this Orient expedition to bring you an important news bulletin. LEGO Unitron is not a military. The timing of this video seems weird, like it seems like it comes out of nowhere, but at the time I had just been informed about a Blocks magazine that had a Rock Raiders article in it that had some interesting tidbits of information, and so I had reviewed that on a live stream. I was going over and doing that sort of stuff, and then, you know, while we were live, I decided, well, let's look at the other things that are in here, and they had some articles on LEGO Space. And we started reading through some of those, and yeah, like, not to put too much of a point on it, but like, it was really poorly authored. The RoboForce article in particular was rough. It was rough. So yeah, we broke out a pen and we started writing in the text, like with corrections and whatnot. You know, citation needed, like those sorts of things. It was a lot of fun. But you know, we were ripping into it pretty hard. When we were done the live stream, I kept flipping through the magazine, and I found that they actually had articles for the space themes from the early 90s, so I missed these ones, and one of them was Unitron. And here's the first sentence of the article. The inhabitants of Ice Planet didn't stand alone against Spyrius, however, as Unitron was introduced in 1994, replacing Space Police with a stronger military theme. And that, to me, was the straw that broke the camel's back. I just kind of lost my mind for a little bit. Where the heck did this myth come from? I couldn't understand it. I'm like, why do I see this repeated so frequently without citation, right? There's no source to cite to back up this claim. Like what? Where are people getting this from? And so that was kind of the inspiration behind the video. I wanted to find out for myself, because I was just tearing my hair out. I couldn't understand it. Like, every set from Unitron that I had them all, and like all of them, they don't appear to be a military, like from the the outside looking in, and not any more than any of the other LEGO Space sets from that era. And then, like, the product descriptions for these, like, that you see in the LEGO magazines, they were all almost uniformly described as being explorers or, like, you know, generic space adventurers. Like, Unitron is the crossroads of the universe, that sort of thing. So, anyways, this sent me on a little bit of a journey, a little deep dive, kind of a rabbit hole, sort of digging up any sort of sources I could to kind of back up the claim. that Unitron is some sort of stronger military theme. Like, specifically the word military. That was what was getting me. That was something that all these Arrhenius sources had in common. They would always cite it as a stronger military theme, or a theme with a military focus. That's such a strange choice of words to describe a Lego theme, right? Like, it's Lego. They have like an anti-military, like, internal policy when it comes to design. So, like, I knew these articles and other, things I'd seen online. They're pulling that from somewhere. Like it came from something, and so I wanted to find out what it was. Turns out it was a Brikipedia article, as best as I can tell. So awesome. Yeah, that's great. I've been told since then the Brikipedia article's been updated to kind of remove this false information, and that's cool. That wasn't my intention, honestly. But it's nice to know that my deep dive here has had a marginal impact on the larger Lego space community. So yeah, that's neat. A little feather in my hat, I guess. With that being said, though, one of the larger points that I really want to stress here, that I stressed in the video, to be fair, is that it really isn't the fault of whoever made that Brikipedia article when they started out, right? Like, I don't know, they're probably just some kid or someone, someone not really thinking about it through a critical lens, right? They're not at fault for making a mistake in an article, like a web fandom sort of article. Like, who cares, right? The people who are actually at fault are these authors that parroted it uncritically, right? A depressing lack of inquiry on the part of the authors. It's so disappointing to see that. Just, myths being repeated ad nauseum with no one, like, even curious to see where it comes from. Like, really? None of these authors, like, would cock their head and be like, I wonder why this Lego theme is being described as a military. Why did it take for it took all this time for R.R. Slugger to come along, like 20 years for someone to, kind of raise their hand and be like, I don't think that's right, If there were other people questioning it before me, then kudos. Thanks, fight the good fight. I wasn't aware of their efforts, but I think we, when we talk about Lego in a historic context and we approach it with the idea of like Lego research, and we're trying to research the themes and catalog and archive and preserve all the media that surrounds it, I think we need to do so a little bit more critically than the authors of the Blocks magazine. So, counter arguments, because I received a few. Let's talk about some of those here. One of the first ones that came up, several people kind of pointed to it, was this idea that there's a release pattern in Lego space in the 90s. Right, so you have, I guess it extends a little bit earlier than that, right? You have Futuron, Blacktron, and then the original Space Police, right? So you had that kind of like civilian, and then enemy, like villain, and then good guys, heroes, right? And then so that continues into the 90s, where you have M-Tron, followed by Blacktron 2, followed by Space Police 2. So again, civilians, bad guys, good guys. And the folks then posit that it continues from there, right? Ice Planet then becomes the civilian faction, Spyrius becomes the new bad guys, and therefore Unitron becomes the new good guy faction. I think there's multiple holes that can be poked in this. It's a very tidy way to look at Lego space, but I don't think it's a very accurate way, let's say. I think there's flaws in the logic, or there's leaps of logic at least. And we run the risk of, if we adhere to this pattern, we run the risk of looking at the evidence through that lens. And if you do it like that, you'll end up organizing it, like kind of self-selecting it, right? If you're looking for a pattern, you'll find the pattern, is what I'm trying to say. So right off the top, this pattern relies on looking at Lego space through a North American lens, through a North American bias, because Lego Unitron didn't release overseas. So you'd have to be a North American fan of Lego space to look at this release pattern and see that Unitron slots in there, right? Because if you don't have access to Lego Unitron, right? Let's say you live in Europe and it didn't release over there. All of a sudden, Lego Unitron isn't the next Lego space theme. Explorians is, right? Because then you have Ice Planet as the civilians, Spyrius as the bad guys, Explorians as the good guys, if you're going to follow the pattern like that. Yes, I understand that Unitron didn't release over in Europe, so it shouldn't, factor into any sort of observation of this pattern, but that's kind of my point, is it didn't release over there, so in order for this pattern to hold any weight, it has to, like, by its very nature, be something that you can only observe from a North American perspective. I think that just by itself kind of proves that this is a fan theory that we're using to describe LEGO Space, not something that was an intended internal design or release decision. If it's actually something to the contrary, then why is it that the pattern can only be observed from a North American perspective? Why is it then that this pattern just doesn't work if you don't live in North America and you're looking at the releases that you received? Why would Lego Unitron be region exclusive if it's supposed to fill a very important role in this trilogy of releases? Why are we taking a theme that was only released in a small part of the world to be on par with worldwide releases? Like why is Unitron being, pumped up to be the rivals of Spyrius, even though Spyrius was far more prolific as a series than Unitron ever was? Why are we taking Unitron and putting it in this pattern and treating it as an equal with the other releases that were worldwide releases? Is it just because it's convenient to do so that it fits this 3-release pattern? That's kind of what I think. Personally, I think if you're going to try to fit everything into a tidy pattern like this, then the region exclusive stuff has to be left to the wayside. It's just not something that can factor in. If this pattern was intentional, like internally, like they had charted it out ahead of time and said, okay, last year we did the bad guys, this year we're going to do the good guys. If that's something that they were actually doing at the LEGO group, then I don't see why they would lock this one off as being a region exclusive theme. It really, to me, Unitron seems like inconsequential in its design, and that's kind of the point I was getting at, right? Like, it's just generic space adventure. They're not supposed to be the replacement for the space police. I don't know where that where that claim comes from. It's completely baseless as far as I'm aware. I was able to find one source that said that the Space Police was using the Unitron monorail system to get around faster. So they were using the infrastructure of Planet Unitron. Sure. That's a far cry from Unitron replaces the Space Police, right? Especially as a military, too. Like, I don't see it. Another problem with this pattern argument is that if we continue the pattern further, all of a sudden we get something really strange. So after Unitron comes Explorians, so that would be the new civilian faction. Sure, whatever. Then we get UFO, apparently, according to the pattern. And then we get RoboForce. So UFO is supposed to be the bad guys, and then RoboForce is supposed to be the good guys. But once again, we run into this problem where RoboForce didn't release in all markets. It's a North American exclusive, so again, same problem there. But in addition, RoboForce isn't really often depicted combating UFO. They're more often depicted fighting the Time Twisters of all things. Like, if we really want to go to the source material, there's a lot more about RoboForce versus the Time Twisters than RoboForce versus UFO specifically. Lastly, what do we do with insectoids or rock raiders if we're going to include rock raiders? Even if we don't include rock raiders, right? Let's just say insectoids. Why doesn't that one fit the pattern? Right? So I guess what I'm getting at here is, like, who says where the pattern's supposed to stop? Like, if we draw the line at it ends at Unitron, why not draw the line earlier? Why not say it ended at Space Police 2? Or maybe there is no pattern here to begin with. Maybe we're just seeing what we want to see with these releases. Maybe it wasn't an intentional decision from the LEGO designers. For all these reasons, I just don't see the intentionality of this pattern being very plausible. It's a nice, neat, orderly way to look at it in retrospect, but you have to sand a lot of edges down to make things fit. And I don't think that's a helpful way to try to categorize or catalog this era of LEGO space. I kind of see it in the same way that I consider LEGO Rock Raiders to be a space theme. Yes, we know for a fact internally LEGO did not design Rock Raiders with the intention of it being a LEGO space theme. It was supposed to be a theme in the larger Underground series. Rock Raiders was going to be the first entry in Underground, and then they were going to expand it from there. That's kind of, the gist of what was going on there. It ended up getting canceled before that could happen, so what we're left with is Rock Raiders, a sub-theme of a larger theme that never existed. So what I like to do then is I like to take Rock Raiders and adopt it into LEGO space. It fits the bill in a lot of design principles, and the whole story takes place in outer space. They're space miners, it's got inarguable ties to LEGO space, but I can also understand that it wasn't intended to be that way. And that's kind of how I see this pattern, this trio release sort of thing, where it goes good or civilian, good guy, bad guy. The other way around. Civilian, bad guy, good guy. I see that as a way to retroactively look back at these, and maybe you can lump them in. I don't see there being intentionality behind it, though, internally. I think there's too many holes to be poked in it. With that being said, I can't say that you're wrong to look at LEGO space like this if you want to do that. If that's kind of your headcanon, you want to go back and kind of retroactively, reorganize the releases in LEGO space to match this sort of release pattern, then cool, go for it, right? I like to consider LEGO Rock Raiders to be a space theme. Even though the LEGO group didn't intend for it to be a space theme, I consider it a space theme. As long as you're willing to admit that it's just kind of a headcanon or a theory, that's fine. I've got no problems with that. If you're going to try to spout it as some sort of, factual proof of something, that Unitron is the replacement for the Space Police or something like that, then no, there's just not a lot of weight here. It's kind of a pattern of convenience, not really a pattern of fact. Another point that was brought up was the rivalry between Spyrius and Unitron, and how that kind of suggests that perhaps Unitron was there to stop Spyrius. This is one that I pretty much straight up disagree with. I think this rivalry, air quotes right now, has been substantially overblown by non-contemporary sources. Folks talking about both of these LEGO themes, just kind of parroting what they've seen talked about before. But when you go back to the sources, Spyrius is mentioned shockingly few times. The only product description that mentions Spyrius is that single one that compares it to the FBI or CIA, right? That's it. All the rest have no mention of Spyrius, no mention of Unitron being a secret agency or anything like that, an intelligence agency. None of that's mentioned in any of the other product descriptions. So it kind of seems like it's just that one-off little spot there. Spyrius is mentioned in the commercials. They can be seen terrorizing the Unitron forces. But, it's hard to say whether or not that they're fighting, or is Spyrius trying to pillage a civilian faction? Maybe Unitron's a civilian faction in those early advertisements. It's tough to say. In one of them, Unitron is described as being on a secret mission. So there's something there, perhaps. And in another one, they're called the Space Force. Or Space Control, rather. Sorry, they're called Space Control, and that's the monorail transport base. So they're not even named Unitron by name in that video. I guess what I'm getting at here is that I think we often conflate the rivalry between these two. We just make it up to be bigger than it actually is, and it's really not. It's nothing to the level of Space Police versus Blacktron, right? There's so much supporting evidence for that rivalry, and there just isn't all that much for Spyrius versus Unitron. What's there is very threadbare. Legitimately, I think there are more credible sources to suggest a rivalry between Blacktron 2 and Ice Planet and Spyrius and Ice Planet than there is to indicate a rivalry between Unitron and Spyrius. Now, I won't go so far to say as there's nothing here, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. Perhaps it was originally intended that Unitron and Spyrius were going to be bigger adversaries than what we ended up getting, but we have to kind of debate then, are we debating like what the intended decisions were to be, like what the intended lore was, or what the actual lore is, or like the lore that we actually got in the end. And I think both can be correct, but both can't coexist. Like, you got to choose which one you're going to believe in, I suppose. To muddy the waters a little bit too, I would point to that commercial with Spyrius and the monorail transport base, where Unitron was referred to as space control, as perhaps being evident of maybe some early intentions that they weren't going to be called Unitron early on, and perhaps they were going to be space control, just, the monorail control team, that sort of thing, right? A civilian faction is, I guess, what I'm getting at, right? So if you want to argue the intended lore side of things, I don't even think it's clear cut that there was an intended rivalry of good guy versus bad guy. I think you could even make the argument that the intended rivalry was originally going to be bad guy versus civilian faction. And really, that's nothing new for LEGO lore of like any series, especially from this era. There's going to be conflicting lore, and you just got to choose what you want to believe in. And that's kind of what we have here. I think it's a perfectly valid interpretation to ignore most of the product descriptions, I suppose, if you wanted to go that route, and try to lean into what the perhaps potential intended rivalry was between those two factions, and say that that's what you want to choose to believe in. That's cool. Like, I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong. I think the fact of the matter, though, is that the majority of what we have to work with suggests the opposite, that Unitron is a civilian faction, or at the very least, some sort of governing body of this planet Unitron, this fictional planet Unitron that we're debating here, which is kind of silly, but you get the idea. You gotta pick a lane there, and I'm choosing to go with what I think the majority of the sources support, and choosing to, I guess, dismiss some of the counter examples that might poke holes in my own headcanon here, because that's what you got to do. So no matter which side you choose, you can't homogenize everything. Like, the evidence is going to suggest one or the other, not both. I am, however, going to say you're wrong if you think Unitron is a military that replaces the space police. You gotta show me the evidence there, because I'm not seeing it. So I got into some good discussions, some really good natured discussions about this in the comments section. I really appreciate the folks that took the time to, debate with me about this, our own interpretations of a silly little Lego theme from the 90s. I don't think I had my mind changed on anything there. I don't know if I changed any minds either, but hopefully the video itself is enough proof of concept here to show that there's a little bit more to Unitron than what we were led to believe, I think. And all it takes is just looking at the source material instead of making things up. Fancy that. All right, and we're back to the Orient Expedition. This is the Emperor's ship, and in this one, we finally interrogate the Chinese stereotype minifigures in the series. A substantial portion of this video is dedicated to talking about that, and predictably that rubbed some people the wrong way. In my defense, though, I made it abundantly clear in the disclaimer that we stuck at the start of the Journey to China video, that if you're not going to approach this series through the lens that I'm presenting it, then you're going to have a bad time, right? So the stick to the Lego, don't talk about the real world ramifications or cultural implications crowd was not happy with this one, but they were warned. For the rest of us mature enough to have a conversation like that, I think this was a good one. Honestly, this is one of my favorite videos so far from the Orient Expedition. Even though it was uncomfortable to talk about, it was an uncomfortable video to make, I learned a lot in making it. I learned a lot about what they did right and a lot about what they did wrong here. And I got to celebrate one of my favorite Lego sets in all of Adventurers, which is the Emperor's ship. Despite the minifigure designs, I think this set is just fantastic. just utterly fantastic. And I got to build with it on quite a few occasions, actually, because I accidentally built one of the alternate builds incorrectly the first time, so I had to redo all that work, and that is not an insubstantial amount of work. That is taking the set apart after having done all the photography and rebuilding it and redoing all of the photography for it. Like, yeah. That was unpleasant, but yeah, I mean, it's such a great set that I didn't really mind all that much. So the minifigures, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of good constructive discussion surrounding them. Some less than constructive discussion, as was expected, but whatever. Yeah, the face design, it didn't. Actually, in general, let's just back up here for a sec. In general, I think folks took different issues with the minifigures. Some folks liked the helmet but didn't like the faces. Some people liked the faces, didn't like the helmets. Right? Lots of different opinions being expressed there. And, I don't think my mind was really changed on anything given the discussions that happened down below. But everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So aesthetically, if, the face design works for you, that's awesome. To me, it's kind of my least favorite part, if I'm being honest there. I loved the artistic direction of the faces of the denizens of India and Tibet, and I don't know why they just kind of abandoned that art style and went completely in the wrong direction for China. Ooh, yeah, I don't know. Like I said in the video, they're really just like a couple of buck teeth away from the full-blown stereotype. It's unpleasant to look at from my perspective. I don't vibe with them. The most dumbfounding discovery for me, though, was about the conical helmets and just how I was unable to find pretty much any historic source that could back up their design. I was at a loss for a while there. I really dug deep too. I put in a lot of work researching for this video. It took a long time to put the script together because I was sure I was wrong, right? I just there has to be something somewhere that describes these sorts of helmets. They couldn't have just made this up. They can't possibly just be rice hats but helmets. That can't be the answer. And after weeks of digging, that's kind of the answer I came up with at the end. I threw a couple of bones, saying oh, maybe they're based on this Japanese helmet, but I really think they're just rice picking hats that are made out to be helmets, which is really bad. That's so unfortunate. Now, just like in the Passage of Jun Chi video, I got into a little bit of hot water with maybe perhaps overstating my case that the minifigures were depicted decades out of time. I said 100 years with the battle dress. Maybe something closer to 50 is more accurate. But regardless, while reality is somewhere in the middle, I think, I still take issue with the fact that we're only seeing one side of the story here. The only Chinese soldiers and denizens that we're seeing depicted within Orient Expedition are ill-equipped, underdeveloped, kind of a backward society, and the Europeans arrive and they bring all their fancy technology, right? It's such a stereotype, a trope that we see in this sort of colonialist look at the development of the East. And I think it's useful to push back against this sort of narrative that is sometimes riddled with falsehoods, right? Now, admittedly, in my pushback of it, I'm stating the other side of that and saying okay, well, here's the weaponry and here's the battle dress that they had in their most developed regions. But I, neglected to say that, well, Warlord China is a chaotic time, and it's possible that, there were some soldiers fighting with crossbows and catapults and pikes and things like that. It's possible that happened. the problem here is that we're only seeing the one side. And I'm kind of repeating what I mentioned earlier in the other video, but yeah, the truth lies in between, I think. So while I may have overstepped and overstated my case there, I don't think we can just take the Orient Expedition's depiction of China as being factual. A lot of this hinges on the role of Emperor Chang Wu as well in Orient Expedition. And we're going to get into that in greater detail in the Dragon Fortress video. But there is some sources, or at least one, that states that the emperor is a false emperor. And that kind of lends some credence to the idea that these soldiers are just an ill-equipped militia that's trying to seize power of Xi'an, I think is the city that he's said to have taken over. The problem, though, there is that source is contradicted, rather, by the majority of other sources that all uncritically claim that Chang Wu is the emperor of China. They state that just flat out. He's the emperor of China. And so we might just have to go with a interpretation that is refuted by most of the source material, and that never feels good. I don't like doing that. That to me is kind of like what some folks are doing with Unitron, where they're saying like, no, Unitron is a secret agency that is, counter intelligence for tracking down spy race or whatever, right? Because there are some sources that they kind of suggest that, right? But you got to ignore the majority of stuff out there if you're going to do that. And I feel like we might have to do that here with Orient Expedition, because I've been giving the designers such a hard time for this leg of the expedition. And admittedly, I may have overlooked some errors that were present in India or Tibet. Some folks were keen to point out that in India, the Maharaja and the Scorpion Palace, they really should be a little bit more, developed as a world power at that point in time. The Maharaja is kind of like a throwback sort of character. And I didn't pick up on it at the time. It didn't cross my radar. But, looking back, maybe I should have interrogated that a little bit further and tried to find some sort of factual backing to support or dispute what was being depicted there. This perhaps is due to the time disparity between producing the first two legs of the Orient Expedition retrospective and now, a couple of years later, coming back to it and producing the final leg of the expedition here. Maybe that length of time is kind of changed my perspective on the series somewhat. And so I'm approaching China from a different viewpoint. It's entirely possible. Though that being said, I do think China still indisputably gets the most things wrong, or at least this leg of the expedition, I should say. That's not to say it isn't great, though, because I think it's fantastic, and I think it contains the single best Lego set from Lego Adventurers. And we're getting to that one in the finale. Oh my goodness, do we get to talk about Rock Raiders in 2026? Amazing. Yeah, I finally got around to making another video in the How to Build Rock Raiders series, and this is how to build the Super Teleport. Now, really quick, I gotta give some credit to Brandon McGinnis for giving me a kick in the butt to, get on with it. Get on with it. Yes, get on with it. I was really dragging my feet here, I think. And every now and then I just kind of need some motivation to get going on some of these projects. The Super Teleport is an interesting video. It is an interesting project for us to tackle because on the surface we thought, what is there to say about the Super Teleport? It's a teleport pad and there's a couple of extra pylons. That's that, bada bing, bada bang. But as it turned out, while we dove deeper into it, we found more and more things to comment on until we ended up with a really big and honestly, I think, a really interesting video. This to me is so far one of the highlights of the How to Build Rock Raiders series. It was full of builds that we didn't expect to recreate, sets that I didn't expect to buy so that I could steal pieces from them. Yeah, just kind of fun, you know? It was really fun to go back and do this sort of stuff. And I got to take a lot of really interesting photos as well for the video. This, of course, opens up the door for the cargo carrier and the large mobile laser cutter, the last two large vehicles. And both of them are just headaches to tackle. The connection point for the ramp on the cargo carrier, it's really the stuff of nightmares. I don't know how I'm going to capture that in a script. And, the entirety of the large mobile laser cutter is just a disaster. So those will take some time still. Sorry to keep everyone waiting, but it's the nature of things here. If I only worked on this series, I would have been done, a long time ago, but there'd be huge delays in between every video. And I don't think that's what people really want, or at least what most people want. These videos never do as well as my other ones, but I don't care. I'm doing it because I love Lego Rock Raiders, and I don't care if you love Lego Rock Raiders 2 or not, right? This is what I want to do, right? But it's not the only thing I want to do with the channel, and so I have to kind of temper that with my other desires, I suppose, the other things I want to pursue here. Anyways, yeah, that's the how to build the Super Teleport video. Go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. You might enjoy it, even if you're not a big Rock Raiders fan. You might find something interesting in this one. Okay, we're coming into the home stretch here. This is the Lego mock that was based on a YouTube video that was based on a scene from a movie or something like that, right? This is the Lego Star Clipper. Now, first thing, E.C. Henry, just an amazing guy. Like, what a wonderful, authentic fan of Star Wars and Industrial Light and Magic. And they were kind enough, this surprised me, by the way, they were kind enough to come and check out my video on this, on their model, and they left a comment and everything, and, discussed it. Like, it's super cool. They didn't have to do that. That's so cool of them. Yeah, this was one, again, just kind of like the Megatub Racer, where I thought, you know what, I built this thing, I should show it off. I don't think it's perfect. There's definitely things I would like to tweak about it. It doesn't match the proportions 100%. It doesn't quite match the prompt as well, too, like this idea of, like, what would a Lego retail set of the Star Clipper look like? I don't know if that was necessarily what I was trying to do when I built it, even though that's kind of what I say in the video. I guess what I meant by that was I wanted it to look like it was in the style of the Lego Star Wars as a Lego space theme, like those early couple years of Lego Star Wars, back when it was kind of like a Lego space theme and not a licensed theme as we've come to know them now. That's kind of what I was trying to capture, that sort of that nostalgic sort of vintage look to it. And I think it was pretty successful there. It's obviously way too big to have been a retail set back then. There's just the size and the number of bricks stacked on top of each other. It's kind of missing like some of those weird accent colors that they used to sneak in as well too. Like maybe there'd be some greens showing through or some dark grays here or there. Something to break it up a bit, I think. Could have been nice, but oh well, I don't design my mocks digitally. I just start piling bricks on, and sometimes you got to take some things apart and put them back together, that sort of thing. But it's, just how I go about them. It wasn't really in the cards for me to do a mock-up of this, let's say, and then, try to flesh it out more properly. This is just a one and done, one shot, one take, right, sort of thing. I'm really pleased with the couple of connection points that I've got in it. The cockpit connecting on a single stud on the back of the space chair. Man, I was just so thrilled when I pulled that off. I think it works really well, and it's just silly that it even works at all. And then the magnetically sealed cargo hold is just awesome. It's so satisfying to just drop it into place and have it secure itself. Yeah, love it. Outside that, I think there's some fun humor towards the end of the video, and I get to show off a really cool shot of the Mos Eisley Cantina with a wrecked version of the Star Clipper out front, and I actually built it up after I had created this mock, of course, and I kind of designed the wreckage based on my mock version of the Star Clipper and tried to kind of incorporate the two together in that final closing shot. I think it works wonderfully. Yeah, there isn't a whole lot more to say about this. I asked the audience for some naming ideas for the minifigures, the pair of minifigures, and most of the suggestions were some sort of combination or anagram of E.C. Henry and R.R. Slugger to some extent, which I thought was kind of cute. But yeah, you know, it was a fun video. I'm glad I did this one. And here we are, the final R.R. Slugger video of this year. This is another return to plastic planes, and we're looking at the World City Waterplane. Kind of a bizarre video to end off on, but I'm really happy I was able to make this one because I wanted to do plastic planes again before the summer of Slug. And yes, there's still some time before the summer of Slug. If you're watching this when this video came out, we've still got, you know, a couple of months here, so you never know what might happen. But I really wanted to get another Plastic Planes episode in, so I decided to look at this one. Now, full transparency, I intended for this to be a kind of casual episode that, you know, would be a bit of a softball. So I grabbed a set off the shelf that didn't have any alternate builds. I've got quite a few of these promotional planes, and this one I've had for a number of years now. And I decided to open it up and start building. What ended up happening, though, was that I discovered this plane has a lot more going on than meets the eye. Like when a little, you know, sprue with elastic bands rolled out, I was like, what the heck is going on? Why are there rubber bands in this set? Like, what? And the madness just continued. Like, as I started researching the script, discovering that there were VTOL engines on this thing, and like, it was a seaplane, but like, also like a flying boat, like sort of like a cross between a float plane and a flying boat. Very strange design proportions, and VTOL engines on a seaplane is just like kind of unheard of. But I did learn something about aviation here. Some folks did point out that there was a prototype plane that had VTOL capabilities. Like a VTOL seaplane, called the Cayman K16B. Apparently, it appears in one of the Grand Theft Auto games, which is why these folks knew about it. But yeah, it's a variation on the goose, like the Grumman goose that I showed off in the video. Just serendipitously, coincidentally, it's a variation on that plane that was modified to have VTOL capabilities, and the engines could lift up with the wing and everything. Like it's one of those ones where the wing rotates with it. So yeah, I learned something new. That's pretty cool. Now the really cool thing, Cayman, or I think it's Common is the way you're supposed to pronounce that. Common is the designer of a lot of aviation stuff, especially from the 60s. They worked with the U.S. military for helicopter blades, that sort of thing. They're made out of a substance called lyricord. That's kind of the substance that they designed that became this kind of military plastic sort of material. And the reason why I know this is because Common then founded Ovation Guitars, which are some of the instruments, the musical instruments that I obsess over. So yeah, I kind of know a lot about Common and the guitar world that they inspired, especially with the electric solid bodies that I've collected over the years. That's really cool to see, you know, a relation between that and my Lego world, right? There's a connection, I should say, between those two. And it has to do with the guitars and the designer of those guitars and the stuff they did for the military way back when. So cool. Neat to see that sort of crossover. Anywho, Plastic Planes is just the series that keeps on giving. It's so fun to make videos for Plastic Planes, and I think one of the big things I enjoy about it, I mentioned as much earlier, I think, is that there's no like requirements. There's no expectations of me for that series. You know generally that it's going to be a plane that I talk about, but there's no series that I'm sticking to. There's no release order that I'm sticking to or release window. I'm just kind of, shooting from the hip and making what I think would be interesting. So you never know what you're going to catch next on Plastic Planes, other than it's probably going to have a pair of wings, right? So that's kind of the one constant there. Yeah, let's hope for more Plastic Planes in the future. And that, my friends, should wrap up 5 years of YouTube for RR Slugger. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new around here, well, you've got 5 years of back catalog videos to go check out. And if you've been with me for a long time, my gratitude knows no bounds. Thanks so much. I hope you've had as much fun with this as I have. Anyways, I think we were successful in keeping the runtime shorter than last year's. Turns out all you need to do is make less videos and say less about them. It's a winning combination. I'll keep that in mind for next year. I hope you've enjoyed. I've been your host, RR Slugger, and I'll see you next time for another video.